All right, what is up, everybody? We are live back for a little midweek live stream here, a Wednesday live stream out of our typical normal schedule, but we did have to go see this Michael movie last night. The theater here in town does budget, ayo. They do like we'll still call it $5 movie Tuesday just because of, we'll always hope it'll be $5 movie Tuesday. It's not though. It's slowly gone up. You're like, wait a second, this is closer to the real price than like being, some kind of major discount. But either way, if we're gonna go see a movie, Tuesday night's the night to do it. So it's like, okay, we'll just alter the schedule a little bit. Typically, we're live here, Sunday, Tuesday, and then Friday. So if you're joining us for the first time, we'll be back again Friday night. But that is, typically when you can find us here hanging out on the YouTube. Otherwise, I guess for special movie drops, if we do have to adjust the schedule, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday can work out. So that's what we're doing here. We went to see the Michael movie last night, and we're gonna defend it, chat. I guess it is what it is. We need to. It seems like, you see what again, what do you say, the enjoyment level? At the end of the day, the critics, obviously a small segment of, do critics even count for the box office because they have screenings? But then I guess there are critics that are going to be included in the box office. But, either way, I guess why are you even grumpy about seeing the movie, chat? The people that get to see the movie for free are over here, scribbling notes about how it's bad. It is what it is. But either way, I guess we're not NBA journalists tonight. We're film critics, a little, Rem and Ebert edition, I guess. It is what it is. Or maybe we do have to be NBA journalists for just a second, just peeking over at a couple of games because, I guess we do have basketball on in the background here. Is that the slogan of the pod? It might have to be. Basketball on in the background. It is what it is. I guess, even when it's not in season, it's still going to be on in the background. It is what it is. But in terms of live playoff journalism type basketball, we've got the Pistons trying to stay alive versus the Magic right now. Magic up 3-1. But it looks like, I guess, do we just throw the jinx at them right now? 23 seconds left and the Pistons are up 5. I guess that's not a jinx. We're not saying, it looks like the Pistons should close it out. As Tobias Harris goes to the free throw line here, it looks like if he were to make these free throws, they could close this out. I guess now I'm committing. The Pistons, can they fight off the jinx? It is what it is. Tobias Harris, let's see how strong his game is, chat. Is he going to make it? Oh, yeah. I guess he's worth every dollar on the salary cap for Tobias Harris there. Shout out. He's making the clutch free throws. So, 3-2 going back to Orlando. They're keeping their odds alive here. We've got, I guess, that series potentially gonna continue to go on. And we've got the Raptors right now in Cleveland. It's a close game. It's been, a little bit of a battle of a series, but they're up 3 as we go into the fourth quarter here. And then I would say, the Rockets are going to be playing for their series lives tonight, but make no mistake, we know they're not going to be. They've already played for not getting swept. So, for judging by what we've seen from this series, I guess, the Lakers, congratulations on moving on to the second round. But, the balance for the Raptors, chat. Shed 15 points tonight. That's the first performance that stands out. I guess it is what it is. But, I guess, and he is obviously a productive player, for sure. But when he's getting into the scoring mix like that, that's definitely a good sign, for sure. Barnes and Barrett have done a good job of being the top duo scorers for this team so far. And Barrett again tonight as well, too. 8 for 12. I guess Barnes a little lower on the scoring anyways. 5 for 5. 7. We're looking at Pirtle's stat line. Barnes' stat line, 6 for 11. I guess 17 for him. 9 assists, though. 4 rebounds. 4 turnovers for Barnes. But Jacoby Walter even 17 points, and he is 6 for 11 as well, too. So that's good. He was a former, obviously super high-level pick. We'll get to the Michael bio pick real quick. We just have to check out this Jacoby Walter stat line. It is what it is. I guess, partial NBA journalists, the REMINGTOM pod. But what was he picked at in the draft? 19th pick. I thought maybe he was a lottery pick. But still, a first-round pick. I mean, fresh off the heels of the NFL draft, first-round pick is going to be important regardless. But for the team building, you're going to want to. I mean, it is important. It's not just important like, hey, we want to have a good team. Like, you need to hit on your draft picks. Like, it sounds simple. It is literally how you, I guess. There are, obviously the examples of this signing. This team is built to win the title. We actually physically signed these guys and constructed a roster of good play. We do. And then there's but most of the time it is, you got to have those core pieces built up through the draft. And if you just have multiple years where you're not getting that type of production from your players, your roster, even if you're making good signings, your roster is just going to be in a little bit of a dry spell. That's where, certain teams where they get to trading their first round picks as well. It's, you get the future franchise stuff. Obviously, that becomes a bit of a different way you have to build the team in that sense, where it's like, well, we know maybe in 27, we can't tank out and have the first round pick. But for also just building out the roster as well, too, for having rotation guys, for having guys on cost control situations, and just being able to, have the rights to add a good player as well too. Hopefully a good player in the first round is, and again, obviously they're the rookie scale. In theory you can, you can raise your salary in the league, but you can get a couple of years of good value production there from a rookie player. I guess point being, again, Jacoby Walter, it's like, is that type of guy that's just going to be, an inefficient offensive player? Is he going to be a guy that you can have in your rotation quite a bit when you're trying to make an actual competitive playoff run? And it seems like if obviously he is having those good shooting nights, then it can be for sure. And to be fair as well too, just to be fair to the core guys in the team, you wouldn't still necessarily say team built around Jacoby Walter in a sense, but again, in their ability to acquire talent here, he still has to be a main piece of the roster if they're going to be something at this point. The Cavs have taken a little bit of a 5-point lead. Hey, is this fourth quarter going to be is it going to be an exciting fourth quarter? I guess it is just a hype run right now for the Cavs. It's a 13-0 run. The Cleveland crowd is going crazy. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, now that Garland has been traded, I think there is a little bit of an extra, not say extra love for the superstar, but there is that extra definition of who, because again, Garland was the guy that was drafted as well too. So it's not like, is Garland supposed to be the franchise guy? But there is just a little bit of a different, connection to that type of player. And not to say that, again, Mitchell wasn't already sort of the beloved number one guy. You do have Mobley in a sense, but now it's even clear, Mobley, again, no disrespect, but he just hasn't quite, at this point in his game, it's still possible for him. It's still even possible in this playoff run. But he just hasn't quite, at this point, elevated to the point where we would say, Mobley could be the number one franchise guy, per se. So, again, it's, clear, this is, maybe even more so in that sense as well, too, like we're saying, with the evolution of Mobley's game, kind of rounding out to a number two. And, Harden, you're not going to bring him in to be a number. We're just, we have to disrespect everybody, but, it is what it is. The team, the Cavs are calling their offense in a certain way as well, too. They're not fooling themselves there. Mitchell is the best player. So, I think the crowd kind of rallying around him, too, is definitely, you can, sense that energy there as well. Schroeder, the defense on RJ Barrett. They've locked him up, chat. They've locked him up. The Raptors haven't scored here. Have they scored in the fourth quarter at all? Oh, the Mitchell floater. The basket not being kind to him that time. It spins out, but he definitely got to a spot there. And that semi-transition where he can just get a full head of steam and just get to that 6-7 foot spot right to the basket. So he should have got that. Barnes spinning away, chat. Oh no. He's obviously been good for him this season as well too. You got to give him credit for his game, becoming more refined. But yeah, they're 0 for 9 in this quarter. I would say I still don't really know what a Scotty Barnes move would be. Though that post fadeaway, if he can really get that down, that looks like it could definitely, be something as well too. RJ Barrett, you kind of see him like drive into the basket. He's got that herky-jerky mid-range game. And Scotty Barnes as well too can again definitely get to the hoop. But there still isn't like a I would say, this is the part of the scoring package from Scotty Barnes that you might want to copy for your game. Hey, it is what it is. But either way, the Michael biopic, I guess we'll keep an eye on Raptors Cavs here for that. I guess what's the connection? LeBron biopic for Cleveland, a star, big star from sort of the start, but I guess we can kind of stumble into that connection, and I guess you got the Bieber from Toronto. Hey, see, obviously both of these cities have their mega stars that they rally behind. I guess who's more popular, LeBron or Bieber? Hey, I guess LeBron or Drake as well too. But Bieber fresh off the Coachella set, definitely hyped. Hey, there was somebody that I was like, how do we start a conversation with this person? I feel like they're gonna have an opinion on the Bieber Coachella set. Like, hey, you watch it, I guess did we say it a little more clearly than that? Fortunately, we did at the time. But it was like, oh, thankfully, the right question. You're like, boom, 5 minutes, just gone. You're like, thankfully this was the right prompt to get this person talking. But I guess, and again, if we're talking, I guess Drake, he did start off as an actor for sure. He definitely started off as a, you would say like the child star, though definitely not, obviously, and I think he's probably at this point, is he a bigger artist than Justin Bieber at this point? That's an interesting one. I would say because of his activity over the way he's consistently dropping albums, he's definitely a little bit of a bigger presence, obviously, when the album drops. And, if we look at the individual Spotify, like the catalogs themselves, I'm just thinking more so the Spotify numbers. Like, obviously Bieber is still a guy that's in the top 15. Either way, so I guess we have to do a who's the true king of Toronto? Hey, is it the Iceman or is it the Biebs? Hey, but is the Biebs, has the Biebs had a whole city block of just ice at this point? Has the Biebs nuked his own city? Hey, whatever is going on, I guess we'll see that music video when it drops. Hey, hopefully that song is good. I guess if I have to ask, he did drop a music video to What Did I Miss, right? Because I'm trying to think of like the clips that I've been seeing him dance around to. Hey, I guess we haven't been watching the music video to What Did I Miss. If he did drop it, it is what it is. Shout out. But you get the Iceman live streams on here. I guess his latest video is Iceman episode 3, and then a Somebody Loves Me music video, or maybe like a visualizer type thing. It's a bunch of Somebody Love Me situations off of, there's a ton of them here. What's going on? Is this all the same thing? Is this all the same song? It has to be, because that was a song off of some Sexy Songs for You is the album. So it's not like this is the title of the album. Directed by Matthias Soraya and Carlos Rodriguez. So it's just a bunch of different music videos directed by people. I mean, that's cool that, you have, Somebody Love Me directed by Turan. So just different people getting their opportunity to, have this. I guess this is from 8 months ago, so we just missed this. It is what it is. There's a bunch. And then, you get to the Nokia music video. So What Did I Miss? I guess doesn't have one. Did he stream it live? Yeah, we're doing it live. Hey, I guess he didn't stream it live. So is that going to be the What Did I Miss music video? I guess we'll have to see. And I guess we'll have to see if that's on the album as well, too. But I guess as a single, it could get one, or it should have already gotten one. I guess because you'll ideally, I guess, want to have a couple of music videos for songs that are on the album as well, too. Just because, hopefully they're good enough that we want music videos for them. But either way, I guess battle it out in the DMs. Let us know, the Bieber fans and the Drake fans. Hey, I don't know. Is it the same fans, chat? Hey, I don't know if we need to start getting into that. But either way, I guess, speaking of the Bieber and the Drake fans, I guess we're still trying to connect this back to the Michael biopic. It is what it is. But, again, if we look at the the scores. Obviously, you say you're in the wrong or the right. Again, we're in the right. If you enjoy this movie in terms of and we gotta say as well too. I mean, we gotta say right off the top. I mean, we should have a big old degree on the wall. Hey, a big old diploma on the wall that just says underqualified, because it is what it is. I mean, kind of like this movie. There's just a lot to address, and obviously, so many different things to talk about with the Michael Jackson storyline. And again, are there things that again, we're not qualified to necessarily hash out in a major way, or we would just need more. We would need other voices in the room to really have an intelligent version of the conversation, because we would need intelligent people here to be able to discuss it. But either way, just try. If we had to try to discuss it as a movie and as a theater going experience, as a piece of cinema, as something, and again, you don't want to say like, oh, let's only focus on this and not focus on something that happened. And then again, like if we say that in terms of the conversation that we're just having about the story, but then like looking at the movie in one way, again, there is a lot going on. There is obviously, it is what it is, and that's why this is such a that's why this was always going to be, given what the Michael Jackson legacy is, this was always going to be such a difficult story to tell. And that is, again, given what the legacy is. And, again, every time I'm going to say focusing on the music, focusing on the career, hopefully that's not to say putting aside, any harm or any other things that have, been caused by, obviously, things that definitely were, again, underqualified, chat, underqualified. But even if, again, you're just looking at it from a career standpoint, like this is obviously arguably the biggest star in pop culture that we've ever had. But the biggest career in pop culture that we've ever had as well too. Like if we were going to go back to the LeBron connection, I was thinking about this, like, in terms of like if again, you're just saying we have to tell the story from the beginning of the career, and they didn't even obviously get to the end of the career as well too, but just where they span starting from the beginning of the career, like whose career starts at that beginning and then obviously has the success afterwards as well too. Like we know time and time again that, and again, that's obviously a whole conversation as well. But we know time and time again that it's just very, very difficult for these child stars to continue to, and again, to put it bluntly as well too, to just continue to have successful careers, but then to be able to, become, there's a difference between like, are these people working at like a very successful level, and then what are you saying, like the graph, the projection, like like continues to rise upward. Where again, Michael's career was always building on the success going forward. And that's where I was thinking in the parallels of LeBron, where again, obviously you have a guy that goes into the public limelight at such a young age, but then every step of the way forward, the expectation continues to rise about what the career is supposed to be. And it's like, well, I guess he got that checkpoint. I guess, and that's like the checkpoints keep going up and up and up. And, you have to keep discussing him. Like every point of the career along the way matters for him. There's really nothing that you can, again, you can pull parts of the story and focus on the story, but if you're going to tell, and, again, I'm going to say, as I'm saying it, it's like, well, got him there. But, again, to focus, like if you're going to tell the story of Michael Jackson's musical career and the album, like every point of his album making, his music production mattered. Like there's no like, oh, he took the actor dip at this point. Like, if we were doing a Pacino documentary, like there's going to be runs in the Pacino documentary. It's like, you could tell this part of the story to tell it about, the ebbs and flows of his movie career. But it's like, oh, we could go from The Godfather in the 80s and then, oh, maybe, all of a sudden we're skipping to Heat. Like what, we got to obviously, give our guy Pacino credit. It is what it is. But, again, there's no skips. There's no skips for Michael's career. So that's the scale at which you have to cover for just what the opportunities for things to be shown on screen from a career standpoint is just endless. And again, even with comparison to LeBron, like, I guess, they say in the movie when he is breaking into the limelight as the Jackson 5 and he's talking to, Lorenz Tate's character, that he is 10, and then, they're lying about his age. They're saying that he's 8. But I guess because of the start of the career, kind of, I guess, building up to the early Motown, he's probably going to be starting that Jackson 5 career. And, obviously he's probably starting the actual career stuff, as literally as soon as he can. Obviously, again, speaking of LeBron, he's going to be starting basketball as soon as he can as well, too. But really becoming like a national figure, again, you want to say like LeBron was, he was like, what, 15 at that point. So even still, there is like a 7, 8 year, 5, 6, 7, 8 year gap between when Michael becomes a famous person, legitimately famous. Like they go to the, when they're at the Jackson 5 part at the beginning, they cut to the chart at one point, and it's ABC going up the charts. And it's like ABC is a great song. Like, it's incredibly infectious when it's on, for sure. And I mean, just, the songs in the theater is great. ABC song? Okay, chat. What are we doing here? It's obviously the Jackson 5 song that we're looking for. 1970. But I guess, does it say automatically #1 lead single for Jackson 5's sophomore album? The single was released February 22nd. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, peaking at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts for 2 weeks. And I guess we do have, at times as well too. Is this like the first TikTok song? There is like a TikTok song sort of trendy vibe to, this song. Again, it's just like a fun dance song, ABC. But, just even getting to, relive some of those. And obviously, who isn't queuing up, speaking of Spotify streams, obviously the Michael Jackson part of this discography is one of the most streamed, again, with Thriller and Off the Wall and The Bad Run there for sure. But, the Jackson 5 part of it as well, too. For the real Michael Jackson fans that are going and actually streaming the Jackson 5 songs. But, like, just the vocals from the younger Michael songs as well, too. Like, there is even a difference, the way his voice, obviously the way his voice was then versus what it became later as well, too. And, he gets better at using his voice in the music as well, too, really weaponizing it as like an instrument and all the ad-lib stuff. He's not really like ad-libbing in the same way, obviously, in the Jackson 5 that he is later in his career. And, he's in a part of a band as well, too. He's not like the sole vocalist responsible for carrying the song. But, regardless, just the range and the emotion that he had as a child, it's just like insane. It's insane. Like legitimately, if you ranked like, Jackson 5 Michael Jackson voice and Michael Jackson solo career voice, post Thriller, what he was, a little bit later on for some separation, 90s Michael Jackson versus 70s Michael Jackson versus 90s. Like 70s Jackson 5 Michael Jackson is arguably like a top five vocalist on his own in general. Like Kid Michael Jackson, like there's like a crispness in the way that he's able to get to some of those high notes that I don't want to say he didn't get to at, later in his career. But I think the way that, again, he was utilizing the way that he was vocalizing some of the pitches later in his career, where he's giving it a little bit more like, wow, some of that type of stuff when he is getting up into the higher notes. Again, he's not doing that stuff when he's a kid. So it's just like the pureness at which he's just singing these songs is crazy. Like when they cut to the "Who's Loving You" part when he's in the studio and it's just the vocals as well too, and then you just like see Lorenz Tate's eyes just like start to be like, oh man, like I was getting emotional when he was singing. I was like, whose voice is like this? Like this is crazy. And again, obviously it's not a hot take to say that as a the individual himself as well too, but it's like ranking the versions again of like LeBron as a player, where it's like, but I do think Michael's voice in the Jackson 5 is better all time than LeBron on the Cavs his first run if that makes sense. So if it's like Jackson 5 is LeBron, maybe St. Vincent St. Mary is LeBron's Jackson 5 run, but I would say that it would be Jackson 5 would be the Cavs early Cavs run, and then like Michael's off the wall thriller bad sort of run would be, and maybe just kind of off the wall thriller as well too, because how long I guess was in between those two albums? I guess the years. Ayo, obviously they're all existing at the same time on Spotify for us, but them actually in the order of getting released here, yeah, I guess 87, so you're still in the 80s there, and then Dangerous in 91, so I guess late 70s, off the wall 79, but I mean you guys get the vibe of and you see the aesthetic move through the film as well too, like the eras. And Michael, obviously they're talking throughout the movie about him being conscious about, and but about how he's defining his character and his artist on stage, his on-stage persona, his public persona, in terms of again just how he's even crafting his aesthetic. But you can kind of just visualize how that moves throughout the course of his career. But Jackson 5 is his 07, his 03 to 010 Cavs run, and then that off the wall thriller is his Miami Heat run, and then afterwards is bad. See, I guess Thriller does kind of have to be somehow like his 2016, because that is maybe, but maybe just in that comparison, LeBron does have his magnum opus, album / season a little bit later than Michael had as well. Because is bad like the 2018 Cavs run, where it's not necessarily like a loss for LeBron. But because it's not Thriller, because they didn't win it like in 2016, it's like, oh, well, I guess the season is a disappointment. I guess Bad didn't necessarily lose to like a 29, what year was that? 2017 Warriors, 2018 Warriors. But either way, what are we saying? But that was the first, when people are talking about what is this movie have to be. It's like, well, there's so many things that this movie can be. And, I think that's the other thing to remember. Like, what are we watching here? We're watching a music biopic. And, again, there is a version of the movie, the cinematic experience, that is a much more cinematic, a much more intense, a much more investigative, you could say, version of the movie. But this is not, and obviously the way it's made, it's not a documentary. But music biopics are not documentaries. And, again, it's not going to be necessarily like a mini series as well too. It's not going to be able to investigate every single plot point of his career for an hour. And again, there is so many different versions of the story that you can pick out and tell and be like, let's focus on this, let's focus on that. And, maybe in an overview, you can narrow it down to a couple of checkpoints and be like, we're gonna, in a couple hour runtime, we're gonna really highlight like these three various things that happened throughout the course of his, again, music career. And, but maybe just focus on, like we're saying, that peak of his powers, sort of, emerging into his peak of his powers solo run with Off the Wall and Thriller, and then like a good Jackson 5 sort of Joe Jackson storyline as well too. Is like be those three things that we'll really focus on, and then kind of moving into the bad era. And in some ways, as I'm saying it as well too, like, well, they kind of did do that as well too. And again, speaking of scope, like the first thing going into this movie, you see is the runtime at 2 hours and 7 minutes is just not that much runtime to be able to tell this, to be able to tell the version of the story if you want that full on comprehensive, really like, let's ask all the questions and get to the bottom of the Michael Jackson story here. Like, you're not going to be able to, again, do that in 2 hours. Or there is just a version of the movie that is, again, probably a little bit more serious. But I just, and, again, to tread lightly with the legacy stuff, that's just not going to be what the first version of the biopic is. Like, maybe now that in some ways, this has been set as a foundational layer, and what's next, obviously, for, just the Michael Jackson movie part 2 itself is even a question. But, just because of the, what they're setting up there at the end, and even just where they leave off his career. Again, there's just so much musical stuff even to address later as well. But the 2 hour and 7 minute runtime compared to some of the other stuff is just not that crazy amount of time. So what they're again, I try as I say it, but the story that they are attempting to tell for the Michael Jackson story and the time that they had to do it in, I think that is a great execution for a music biopic. Again, for a Netflix true crime documentary, that's not what true crime. But for a Netflix Netflix Uncovered, Finding Neverland Part 2, for whatever that documentary is, it's totally different in tone, totally different. And again, it's like, well, let's just tell this version of the story that just totally. I get all that, and I don't necessarily think that. Again, that stuff is just that stuff is in some ways, again, always going to be in conversation every time you're clicking play on a song as well too, even if you're not consciously thinking of every single narrative part of the Michael Jackson story that is going into clicking play. You are processing it, in that moment, and you're still deciding, like, I'm going to click play on the song. So now I have to all of a sudden, I guess, there's going to be like a, now there's a holding. Is holding accountable the right term? Because in some way, again, you don't want to lie as well too. I'm not sitting up here saying let's lie about the Michael Jackson story, let's tell it in a false way, let's paint it in a false narrative. That didn't happen. And maybe I'm thinking as well too in a future that there is going to be like a future thing that will approach it in this way. So I don't know if I'm subconsciously, again, like, oh, will they do like I'm saying, like a Michael Part 2 that is in a little bit more serious tone, or will we get more properties that, are Michael centric and that will, ask questions in a deeper way, for sure. But, again, in a 2 hour, 7 minute runtime to go through the scope of his career, they're just not going to, in general, be able to park on a single moment like that and really flush out what happened in that moment. And I was just thinking about other music biopics as well, too, and that were obviously good. But, Straight Outta Compton, if we were going for recent ones, and I was just doing this off of memory as well, too. So, again, there might be one within the last 10 years that, music-centric as well, too, that is, short runtime that they really did crush. But, the Straight Outta Compton biopic is like 2.5 hour runtime. And it is still going to be, NWA, obviously Dr. Dre, one of the biggest rap stars that we've ever had, one of the biggest hip hop stars. Same with Ice Cube as well, too. I mean, he moved into movies, and that really, again, if we're just ranking like hip hop stars, respectfully, his movie career is probably, I guess that's a young blood take to say that his music career is bigger than his movie career is bigger than his music career. But I think it is. I mean, the man has definitely, at this point, probably been in movies about, if not longer, than he was making music. And I mean, to his credit, he's obviously been in some very, very successful movies. But, we're talking about major public stars. The NWA story is a more condensed story than the Michael Jackson if you're telling it about that group as well, because, it's just the musical timeline of their careers, and obviously, there are figures that in that group that have gone on as well too. Rest in peace. But there are that career as well too. That story is just a more condensed story, and they're telling it in a bigger runtime as well. It maybe is going to make for a more critically acclaimed movie, a more, again, what do you say, investigative movie about what they're trying to tell in that story. But they're going to be able to focus on more things in a specific moment. Because, again, the moment is just a little bit shorter in that way. If we were going for biopics that, are more expansive in terms of a life, like Malcolm X is obviously, if we're talking just gold standards of biopics in general. And that is, a 3.5 hour epic movie. So if this movie did have another hour and a half of runtime on it, there is going to be an hour section of this movie that is probably going to be a little bit darker. And is, do you say change the rating? I don't know what, again, just in terms of when a movie just starts addressing topics of conversation, how does that change, the rating as well too. And I guess, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to put this point in here, but thinking about the audience that you're trying to attract for this movie, I think there is, can I say a family element? I think there is a family element that you are trying to have with this movie. Like, I think this is a PG-13 movie, so I guess, you're not going to be taking, your 6-year-old to the Michael Jackson movie. Here, let me see. Is it a PG or is it a PG-13? I guess does it have a couple of swears in it? It might have a couple of swears. So maybe that does move it to a PG-13 here. Let's see. Is it on the Wikipedia page? I guess, I don't know. Either way, I think there is supposed to be an accessibility here to the movie. Like, I think you are gonna, again, depending on who is gonna want to go into this on the, or who is, technically capable of going to the theater to see a PG-13 movie. Like, this is gonna be something that, as a movie, they're gonna want to, I think, be played to the fan of Michael Jackson as early as possible. This is not one like, hey, let's, not say that again. Hey, let's avoid the conversation of Michael Jackson. So, does that, and, now we have a responsibility to have the conversation ourselves. Like, maybe is that what we're scared of as well, too? Like, the movie didn't have the conversation for us? I don't know. But, either way, again, I think there is an accessibility that is trying to be presented to the story of the musical career here. So, in a wide audience in terms of the family scope that it is trying to attract. But for, again, that type of story, if it had another hour and a half, it's just going to have the ability to park on, you're going to have maybe an extra 15 minutes to be able to spend on Thriller. And then there's going to be 45 minutes that you're going to, now there's a whole nother storyline that's being addressed. And, again, it's just, those are different types of biopics as well, too. And I think the music biopic, there hasn't been like a musical character that's gotten that epic treatment in the same way. Like most music biopics, do you say a sanitized version? Because again, I'm trying to think, like, I didn't really watch the Bohemian Rhapsody biopic because I guess hot take, like, I'm not saying I don't like Queen. That's not the take at all. I'm just saying that Queen is not, the first people that I get. Bohemian Rhapsody queues up at a party or somewhere, like, I'm definitely singing it. But are they in my Spotify rotation? Unfortunately, no. It is what it is. There's greats all over the place that aren't in like a hot take. Rem says he doesn't listen to Bohemian Rhapsody. You be honest about the legends that you don't listen to. I'm not saying that you don't listen to them. Like, I wouldn't listen to them. But you can only queue up so many artists. So who are you listening? There's legends that you aren't listening to. Hey yo. It is what it is. I mentioned Dr. Dre earlier. Yeah, obviously, you can be a great hip-hop fan and not always return to the Dr. Dre discography. Hey, yo, it is what it is. There are hip-hop people. You queue up the artists that you queue up. It is what it is. So, again, I'm sorry to the Bohemian Rhapsody estate out there, all the Bohemian Rhapsody fans. But, again, it is what it is. I could see myself going on a little Bohemian Rhapsody stretch here. For sure. Maybe it's just the reminder that, like, hey, branch out. Listen to some other stuff. You know what, Chet? I've decided. I'm not saying that again. Are they going to be in my top 5 every year going forward? But you know what? I will commit now at the gym and stuff. We will go on a Bohemian Rhapsody run here. I'll throw on the albums because I need to listen to it. I need to listen to it. Yeah, again, they're legends in their own right. So it is what it is. But that again, the biopic is more. And I think it is what the biopics are more about the music. They're more about the music. They're more about a cinematic representation of the songs and being able to see that in a theatrical experience. Because, again, that's like people criticizing this for being sort of an extended music video. And that is definitely a very intelligent perception from a storytelling narrative from the album or from the movie as well too, because and listening to a lot of the Ringer conversation about this movie, and Van Lathan, we got to call in and debate him about the Michael Jackson movie. I guess it is what it is, but for one of the points that I was here to make about the movie is, well, you can watch a lot of these Michael performances already. You know, you can watch the music videos, you can watch the recorded sets and the iconic headlining performances that he already had that is being displayed here, and that's absolutely true. And you know, it's like watching the live thing, getting the fact that we have so much of this footage of Michael's career. Again, if you're a fan of his music and want to relive a lot of those, see those experiences again, you can, and it's great that we have that as well. But there is something to seeing the portrayal of it on screen in the movie in a different way. You know, it's going to be shot, hopefully, not necessarily in a better way, but in a more, detailed sort of, intimate cinematic type of way that is going to be different than filming like a music video. And, like when people, and, again, in talking about music biopics, there is a conversation from that documentary standpoint of like this biopic needs to teach me something about the musical character. And again, I just don't know, maybe I just don't need to watch all the musical biopics now to make sure that that's true. I just don't really know what musical biopic does that. Again, it's gonna portray the beats that we know, but it's like, well, now we get to see these beats played out on screen. We get to see the everyday, we get to see those moments of the Jackson 5 practicing, and, we'll get to the Coleman Domingo performances and all that different stuff. Like, we get to see the moments of the dynamic relationship. Again, we know all that stuff, but the music biopic is about seeing it. The investigative journalism reports, the documentaries, even a movie that has a different thesis statement is going to be addressing the conversation in a different way. But the movie that is the music biopic is this. It has been this. I might go throw on the Elton John one as well too, because I do remember people liking that one. I didn't see that one when it dropped as well. Maybe I needed to. Shout out to Taron Egerton, I guess. Hey, now we're gonna Taron Egerton hot takes like we had Bohemian Rhapsody hot takes. We can only watch so many actors, chat. We can only watch so many actors. Hey, but either way, we were hearing it that he was crushing it in the Elton John role. I guess what's the runtime for Rocket Man? I didn't look that one up here. Let's see, 2 hours and 1 minute. So that is a comparable one. The other just biopics in general that I was looking up was What's Love Got to Do with It? An hour 58. So that one, similar runtime. You're able to have a really great movie and still, a pretty good comprehensive story. But, again, even with all, like we're saying, nobody has had the career of Michael Jackson. Like, Tina Turner has had one of the best ever musical careers, literally queen of rock and roll. But, again, literally no person in pop culture ever has had the career of Michael Jackson to the length that Michael Jackson has had it. So, you get even an hour 58 for the Michael Jackson story. Like, there's just no way. Like, Tina Turner, you could have a, 2.5, 3 hour movie for sure. Again, it's just a very, great career. Obviously, there are things in the career that can't be addressed. And speaking of movies as well, too, obviously it's like there are things that are addressed in that movie. It's like, well, if we're going to tell this certain story with an honesty, like, do we need to tell, again, there's so much accounting we could, just be holding ourselves narratively in these movies all the time as well. But I was thinking, like, Social Network as well is, I guess, technically a biopic. I was looking up biopics, and it was like, okay, so I just Googled best biopics. I guess that was the one bit of research I did. And it said Social Network. And I was like, okay, I guess technically. So if we're going to make the extreme comparison, again, it's a different thing, though. It's a story. It's not a biopic. It's a story about the founding of Facebook. And that, just if we're talking about a condensed event, we're not telling the Mark Zuckerberg life story. We're talking about from 2007 to how, from 2005 at Harvard, whenever that movie started. When is he trying to spit game to that girl in the bar or whatever? What's the version of spit and go away? Because that's what Mark Zuckerberg is doing in that scene. It is what it is. The anti-flirting Mark Zuckerberg, I guess Jesse Eisenberg, in that scene. But either way, you're starting from his college life to like when Facebook now is starting to be, you go from, and that's another one where it's like, hey, obviously there's so many different ways now that you're redoing the Mark Zuckerberg portrayal and how we're viewing him. in that biopic. But that's another one where you're like, you're talking like 7, 8, like how long is that movie? Hey, like 7, 8 years of his career, and it's just a more single event, and the span of the career more so is the time jump in the trial as well too. Like the actual narrative function of the story again is within a couple of years and focused on a certain event. So you're just going to be able to have a more concise narrative in that type of movie as well. But again, it's not a biopic as well. So it's just a little bit of a different thing. And I guess we're going back to runtime. Like I guess Oppenheimer recently, I did write that down if we're just talking about, again, biopics in general. But that is also a different thing. Like there is lead up into Oppenheimer's career. Like I'm not going to try to sit here and say like every biopic is not a biopic. Again, Social Network, I think, is obviously, you can make a case that is a movie about the founding of Facebook, more of a historical, do you say historical drama? It is, as you put some years on it, it becomes more accurate for sure. Obviously we are living history. Yikes. But again, for movies that we made recently, Oppenheimer, it's a 3-hour movie. It has 50 more minutes of runtime than Michael. And make no mistake, what people were saying about Oppenheimer? It's a little long. Hey, pause. Like maybe we need to cut some of that runtime out. Maybe that third act could have trimmed a little bit of fat on that one there. So, Lawrence of Arabia, I guess that's technically a biopic as well too. 347. IT saying Lawrence of Arabia is 347. Who's that even about? I know, chat, you could say it's about Lawrence of Arabia. I do know that it is not Dexter Lawrence of Arabia. Did they trade Lawrence of Arabia for the 10th overall pick? Oh, T.E. Lawrence, that's his name. T.E. Lawrence, British officer. He gets British officer T.E. Lawrence, who, make no mistake, I don't think that we really, I guess I'm going to say we, like I was there in 62 when was this movie drop in 62? I guess, oh yeah, it did say here 62 film. I was like, where did I just pull that number from? But yeah, I wasn't there in 62, obviously, when this movie dropped. But I don't think we knew as much about Lawrence of Arabia when this movie dropped as we know about Michael Jackson now. Like how much did this book sell? Did the original book sell as much as Thriller? Because I don't think it did. I think it's based on his book, right? He published the 7 Pillars of Wisdom in 1926. Chat. That sounded familiar to some stuff that we were some books that have been written today. But what is, I guess, the story? I guess here, 62 film. It's gonna be epic biological film based on. Oh, it is based on that, I guess. Based on the 7 Pillars of Wisdom. So during the Arab Revolt against the Ottoman Empire, 1916 to 1918. So, the publication date, 1926. Let's see what it says here. Does it have, is this book platinum? Like, how many times has this sold here? Critical comments. Yeah, I'm sure a book written in 1912, again, I'm not reading it. It is what it is. I'm good. I'll read a new book. Hopefully we're doing a little bit better. But I guess, or 1922, maybe from T.E. Lawrence. I guess, I don't know. If somebody tells us different, then, it is what it is. Right? We could just read the Wikipedia synopsis and bam, save ourselves 400 pages and a lot of nonsense. But, there's just no way that we knew as much about Lawrence of Arabia. And regardless, they gave him 347. They gave Michael, 2 hours and 7 minutes. It is what it is. So, again, immediately, there's just no way to be able to properly satisfy, if I can say that, the audience, what the audience wants from the Michael, because again, there's still so much that needs to be discussed and needs to be hashed out. And I don't, will we ever get to a resolved answer, or will it always be an ongoing discussion? And you know what? If it always has to be an ongoing discussion, then that's what it has to be, and we have to be up to be having that as well too. But again, it's like, well, I guess it's like, well, then what movie did you just watch? It's like, again, we're holding out hope for part 2, I guess, in that sense. I don't even, is holding out hope the right sense. And again, it's more so the fact that, you don't want anybody to be hurt by the fact that you're trying to see a movie about the music. And that's the other thing as well, too, that is, the part, because then, hey, yo, Chet, you got to give us a second here, because we're also trying to, work out our own feelings about all this stuff as well, too. Again, this is, it's not easy to just, I guess you can't obviously just say, I listen to Michael Jackson and it is what it is and I don't want to talk about it. But, I don't feel like that is, so, is that what, is this movie the Michael Jackson movie that is, I listen to Michael Jackson and don't want to talk about it? But, is it the version where it's like, are we dancing to this? Are we listening to this? Are we enjoying this music? Is this movie supposed to be the representation of the enjoyment of that music? More so than like we're saying, the questioning that definitely needs to be happening as well too, about the story. But I also did write down Hitchcock has got an hour 38. I don't think that that's even a good biopic as well. But I was just having a fun time looking at the poster for that. Who played Hitchcock? It was Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins. Let's see what we got here. 2005 Hitch. No, 2012. I honestly didn't even realize they made this until I was, Googling those biopics. I guess this is a sleeping giant. Ayo, Hitchcock. And it had ScarJo in it as Janet Leigh. So I was like, well, I guess, I just like, when was ScarJo in the Hitchcock biopic? She is obviously, shout out, one of the greats. But she is a sneaky, like, in everything type of situation. Hey, yo, we got to maybe be more careful with our words. But, like, just like I'm watching a movie and what are the odds that ScarJo is going to be in the movie? Like, it is, like, it's like, oh, 2000s, there is a run there where you're just like, I guess she's just in everything. It is what it is. But, I was going to make a Paul Rudd comparison. Hey, yo, the only time Paul Rudd's ever been compared to ScarJo. But you're just like, I guess just Paul Rudd's in this too. Samuel L's the obvious one. But I just didn't, I didn't want to go to Samuel L right away. And just be like, obviously I'm watching this, Samuel L is in this. But, he's the gold standard for work ethic in Hollywood, is what we'll say. Kevin Hart had his run where it was like stereotyped, oh, Kevin Hart. But Kevin Hart, for a while, was more so just making like, I'm going to throw out the term bad. Hey, yo, I love Kevin Hart movies. But, he was more so he was just like ripping through, hey, yo, we'll say that. He was just like ripping through, lead action or lead movie type stuff. Like, not necessarily, 3-4 prestige lead roles a year. But it was like, okay, I'm going to take a couple of buddy cop roles, a couple of comedy roles, more so than like, appear as the supporting guy in like 5 different movies every year. Like, and I guess for the box office, I think Kevin Hart's career has done a good thing. But that would be an interesting turn for his career. Like, he needs to do that. I don't know, maybe the auditioning process is different for him when he goes in as the star versus like, let me compete for this character part. But like, if Kevin Hart had just been in this movie, like, I guess I'm not going to do a cast reshuffle because, we're going to get to the cast as well, too. I mean, hey, yo. The cast is on fire for this one. I guess we got to get the Hitchcock. Hey, yo, pause. We got to get that poster out of the background. Hey, yo. Did I say Gary Oldman earlier? I keep wanting to say it's Gary Oldman. Hey, yo. Can we remake the Hitchcock biopic with Gary Oldman? Have him compete? What was I just looking up something about competing biopics? There was something in the 70s about this runner that was Brian De Palma attached. I don't know. Do we do 70s runners biopics? Hey, yo. What was the 2 competing? The Loneliest Runner? 76? No. Oh, Without Limits? Oh, 98? Oh, yeah, it was a Kurt Russell situation. That's what we were maybe watching. We were listening to some rewatchable, I think, or about Kurt Russell. Oh, and Tombstone. I think we're getting there. I'm retracing my steps. Yeah, Robert Town. I guess is Tequila Sunrise the other one? No, wait. Where's Kurt Russell? Am I seeing Kurt Russell? Who am I seeing? Hey, yo. Okay, I think I'm remembering the conversation of how we got there, but Kurt Russell might not be in this movie, though he is in Tequila Sunrise with Robert Town. So am I seeing William Mopother? Am I getting my white guys mixed up, chat? Hey, yo, where is Kurt Russell in Without Limits? It is what it is. We could get that. But and Prefontaine is the other movie. Yeah, so Jared Leto. Hey, yo. So once again, not Kurt Russell. It is what it is. Kurt Russell, Tequila Sunrise. Is that also a Steve Prefontaine movie? I'm not sure. But for, they made like the competing biopic. So I don't know if they need to turn, Alfred. What's his name? Alfred or Alfred? Alfred Hitchcock, right? Alfred Hitchcock? Is he the butler in Batman? Hey, yo. But I guess either way, what are we talking about? The Michael Jackson biopic. So, for what I think it is attempting to, that's obviously for what the movie is attempting to be. But as a musical biopic, as something in that genre, I don't think it steers away too much from what that genre has been as musical biopics. Again, that could be in some ways, also said in a tone. That's a sweep that could be like a sweeping criticism of the musical biopic lane in general. But I don't know. I kind of think that some of these music biopics are unfairly maligned. I don't even, am I using, good words now? I think these music biopics are unfairly hated. Like, hey, yo, am I gonna be more controversial by uplifting these movies? I might be. But I think, like, the All Eyes on Me biopic, it's watchable. It's watchable. Is it a prestige film? Is it a top 10 movie ever made? Clean movie? Hey, yo, obviously there are some holes in that movie. Am I throwing it on once a month because it's such a great movie? Hey, yo. But if I'm like, there are times that I'm like, you know what? I'm just in the mood to watch the Tupac movie. I guess, also I can watch movies with Tupac in it that are just better as well, too, as a movie. But it's like if I want to watch the Tupac movie, that's what we got right now. All Eyes on Me, and it's fun. Like the guy that plays, is it Demetrius Shipp? Is that the name? I feel like that's the name. But hey, shout out. Obviously that's like the casting in terms of the, they really nailed the look of Tupac, if I can say that respectfully. Obviously in that, I think is in the lane of casting as well too, the goal there. So, I don't think I'm being disrespectful. I think they did a really great job of casting a great character. Notorious, the Biggie biopic, it's fine. It works. You're seeing all the checkpoints of his life on screen. You get a real focus of the music, and that is, a fun time if it's like, hey, let me just relive the career of Biggie. Because, again, I can listen to his music, I can watch the interviews, I can sit here and think about, oh, yes, that's right. I know that this happened in his career. I know that this happened in his career. I know what this happened in his career. You know what, chat? Sometimes, hey, yo, and again, we're going back to the other stuff. Sometimes I don't want to think. Sometimes I just want to watch a movie. Hey, yo, again, there's so many layers there. But if I'm talking about the musical career, again, sometimes I don't want to sit here and piece together, all of Tupac's life and just, again, obviously, do I want to think about now? Yeah, I'm not sure I sound disrespectful. Hey, yo. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes I want to see it played out on screen. And I do think that some of those, those two specifically, hey, yo, I just, shout out. We love Pac and Big. And, I think, again, in the conversation of, what these biopics are as well, too, in terms of the scope of the audience, I kind of think that these biopics are for, people more at least this one specifically, I think, again, there was an engineer for people in my age range as well too. Maybe people that weren't necessarily there, that had relived the Michael Jackson storyline, beat for beat as it was happening, but have, of course, like, again, you still see the numbers, we still listen to him on Spotify. It is what it is. We still listen to him on Apple Music. Right now in the background, I haven't even mentioned, on his YouTube channel, I feel like I've been to his YouTube channel before, and maybe I just missed it as well too. But they've just got a live station going right now, just playing his music videos, which is like, they should have been having that for the last 10 years. The minute the live feature should have, dropped, that would have been a thing. But, that should have been a thing. But, either way, it's like, there is obviously, if you can say, a commercial value that his career still has, a star power. Like, he is still legitimately one of, again, to bring back the LeBron comparison. Again, you wouldn't say that LeBron, I guess you can say LeBron is, arguably the biggest star in the NBA still. I guess, the argument would be, is he the best player in the league still, at this point? Even Wemby is, if we're talking current star power, elevating a little bit just the basketball stuff as with the basketball. We can't say that Wemby's got more basketball aura than LeBron. We already said the All Eyes on Me movie was good. So, it would be a crazy 10-minute run. We're just throwing takes out there. It is what it is. But, again, there was a gearing toward people that maybe didn't necessarily, again, live those storylines, day to day in that type of way. And I was trying to think as well too, again, if I can tread lightly, like, how would I view, like, let's say like a Kanye biopic? Like, what is the year? Because this movie ended at Bad. So again, we said Bad dropped in 87. So now I have to do math. 2020. So 40 years after Bad dropped, they're dropping the movie about Michael Jackson. So if they do a Kanye biopic and it goes up to like Life of Pablo or Donda, I don't know. Is Bad his Donda? I don't know. Is it now Yeezus? I guess it would probably go to Yeezus, right? I mean, Life of Pablo, obviously there's some stuff with the rollout there and the way he was able to, be updating the album afterwards. Obviously, he's really pushed that to the limits with this stuff now. But he was being able to innovate with the music industry even up until then. I would say, and then you go Ye, Kids See Ghosts, Jesus is King, Donda, for sure. Again, all quality projects, obviously. But I would say maybe a little less, not less innovative, but, has his career, I think if you told the biopic up to Life of Pablo, again, in terms of the music career, I think you're good. And you're also, you're also starting to cut off where, things are starting to, but I guess, man, has it been 10 years, chat? Has it been going all the way back to the Life of Pablo now? So you are probably just let's just cut it off at Yeezus. 2013. And just say that's good. But, again, it's like, okay, I've been here for, the Kanye experience now. And, the next generation, of kids, if I walk into the house tomorrow and my brother's like, surprise, here's the, what did he say? Here's the ultrasound. Like, I got a girl pregnant. Like, it's like, what's going on there? Like, I don't know if we need to, have a conversation about that. But either way, I guess, what are we gonna say at 26 to our? What are we gonna tell him? No or congratulations? Give him the talk. But either way, if the next generation starts and it's like, now this kid, of course, didn't grow up listening to the music and hearing the Kanye narratives as they were playing out, but maybe in 10-15 years, and that's obviously assuming, like, again, let's just say this is Kanye's last album as well too, and obviously just in terms of the person of it, we lost Michael early as well, so just anybody, we don't want to lose him early, so there is that part of like, well, what if Michael was alive as well too, and how would that, maybe there would be a, again, that's obviously the wishful fan thinking of, obviously to immediately go to, oh, well, there would be a resolution that would be happily ever after if he was still here. But, again, there is obviously a sliver of the pie chart that is a possibility. So I guess we'll, look for that light at the end of the tunnel there. But for the, again, there is obviously going to be there is going to be a generation of Kanye fans that, and, again, in some ways, different, not to rank, what happened, but, there is some different things in terms of what happened. Again, harm is harm as well, too. Hateful speech and, again, hateful action, harmful actions, again, it doesn't really matter what they are at the end of the day. Like, again, like we're saying, harm is harm. But there are going to be people that are going to be picking up Spotify in 20, 30, 50 years, and they're going to be listening to Kanye, and they're going to be, able to watch that version of the biopic that is, let's focus on the graduation, the run through, here's the point where he's dressed up as the graduation bear, in the college dropout, and he's like making the rise, and then now he's the big star, and here's the Kanye and Kim storyline of it all. And again, now that I'm thinking about hey, yo, Kim Kardashian, who's going to be playing Kim K in that movie? I guess now we kind of have to make this this biopic now. It is what it is. Hey, yo, Chad, I guess now we're probably part of the problem as well, too. It is what it is. Now I guess no Kanye biopic because of that. Now it's off the table. It is what it is. But, again, I'm trying to think, like, what would be the comparative storylines to try to put myself in, a different person's perspective and how they're viewing it. Because, again, I just, as much as I, could, do the work to be investigative of all this stuff, like, I can't be somebody that lived through that and experienced what that timeline was like of this is the star, this is the prism through which we have to, to view the star now, and here is the conversation afterwards that we have to have. Again, I wasn't there for that specific person, but I have been there for people. So, how would I feel if the movie about Kanye's life, left out a lot of the stuff that you're like, that does need to be investigated about his life. And again, I'm sitting here, like, we need to have conversations about those things because these are, real life issues, important issues. So it's like, if we make the movie and then never have the conversation, are we having the conversation? Hey, yo, obviously, like we're saying, tread lightly. Can we bring the underqualified degree back up here? But as I think, again, as a music biopic, I just don't think that it missed the mark as a music biopic. So again, the genre, is it a genre of to be classics? Are all music biopics just as a film structure, if they're sticking to that basic, extended music video narrative, like, are they all going to be, this sort of free, available for free, DVD classic type of situation? It's like, well, I guess, does it even matter if it is? Obviously there is like a profit that you say the movies have to hit, but just there is a business to it all. So it's like, they are obviously trying to, recoup value. There's jobs, there's industry that happens because of it. You do want these things to be successful as well too. And specifically, this movie being a cultural movie, like, there is obviously the support of that as well too, that you want to support the people that made this project and the people that were, the performances, the creators behind it as well too. Obviously, just being so many iconic people and, people that, we love their careers for sure. But, again, as I think what these movies have been in the past, it seems like this is, kind of in line with that a little bit. And I think, again, for an extended music video, guess what? It kind of works. It kind of works. And I don't know if we, again, can focus on the movie itself. That's not even a conversation about the conversation. Hey, that's just us trying to, figure out where we, like always, it's like, what are we doing when we're listening to this music? Like, what does that mean about, again, like so many things. But, if we can go through the movie, if we can, talk about the performances and stuff that happened, again, there's so many, the acting in this movie is insane. It's insane. So we definitely have to pay homage to that. We definitely have to discuss, what happened there. So we'll go to break real quick, and then when we come back, we do have Rockets versus Lakers up in the background. Hey, I didn't even see the score to Raptors versus Cavs. I think the Cavs were kind of closing that one out. So maybe I was just, subconsciously not needing to mention it. But I guess, we are NBA journalists, so we need to anyways. Yeah, Cavs up by 5. Cavs, I guess, win by 5. The game is over at this point. What do we have for Donovan Mitchell tonight? 23. Mobley, 23. We're calling him not a star. Hey, yo. He had 23 and 1 field goal better than, I guess, James Harden. Mitchell, 19 for Mitchell. Hey, yo, 7 for 17. Harden, 7 for 13. Mobley, 8 for 13. So a little bit better there. I think maybe Harden free throws, kind of. I guess he hit one more 3. 4 for 8 for 3 for 3 for Mobley in this one. And that's the Cavs winning with Dean Wade going 3 for 10. So, imagine when he has a good game, how great they'll be. And the Pistons did win, so they'll keep the series alive as well, too. So officially 3-2 series. And I guess, if the Rockets do win this one, it would be a 3-2. Unfortunately, they are cooked. It is what it is because they were down 3-0. So there's just no way again, cut to a couple ways, to cut to way later when it happens. But there's just no way that they win 4 in a row. Again, it would have to be, I guess this Lakers team, if everybody just did continue to get hurt and they blew a 3-0 playoff lead because everybody got injured, that would be kind of a I guess not fun, but ironic, do you say? I don't know if ironic's even the right word, but that would be a very Lakers way to have this end up, for sure. And hey, yo, chat, we've got the music videos in the background that were in the movie right now. So it's like I get the point of that part as well too. If like I can just watch this later. I've already seen that music video in the movie. But again, I want Fuqua's version. Hey, yo, it's like Taylor's version. I want Michael Jackson music video, Thriller, Fuqua's version. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But I guess, when we get back, we'll talk about the performances. We will go through the movie and, hey, yo, shout out the legends that were able to bring this story to life on the big screen. So stay with us, chat. We'll be right back. All right, chat, we are back, and I guess, good timing that we are getting the Thriller music video in that live Michael Jackson station about, the time that we're breaking down the movie here. How often do you have to play the Thriller music video? Because it is, it's not like it's just a music video. It's a short film. Hey, obviously he's got all short films, but it is actually like a 7-8 minute video. So, if it was like a 3.5 minute, you could maybe play it every 2 hours if it was that. And, again, I guess how long is somebody going to be, sitting here watching the Michael Jackson channel? Hey, but, regardless, you have to play it at least every 12 hours for sure. So, twice a day, but maybe once every, every 4, once every 4 hours. That might be it. Once 3, make it 3. Hey, I guess 2 for a normal music video, 3 for Thriller. Like if it was, the Not Like Us music video for Kendrick Station or something. I don't know. You have to play that every 2 hours. Because, again, that's like 3.5 minutes, so it fits the song. It doesn't necessarily take up... It doesn't take the whole scheduling block there for the hour. Hey, you got a 7-minute music video. You're using 10% of your hour on one music video. I mean, programming, chat. Hey, I guess if you're going to use... Well, it's going to be the Thriller music video that it is going to be. Hey, what are we, the executives back at MTV? I guess, but, we're again, this is different now. We're programming a whole channel for Michael Jackson on his YouTube, though. So, hey, But, what are we saying? I guess, to talk about the performances, and we, could obviously start with the star of the movie. But the movie starts with, a different star. Coleman Domingo is the first person that jumps off the screen, but actually we do have to mention quickly as well too the young Michael performance, the Jackson 5 Michael. Let me get the name here to shout out. I guess if we could say respectfully, professionally shout him out, obviously, because as a career professional, he is crushing it here. But let me see, do they have him listed on the oh here we go. They have him listed under Jafar's name. Giuliano Cruvaldi as young Michael. So, I don't even know what the potential acting credits would have been at this point if there's like some, other child actor roles that he has taken that I'm just, not knowing at this point. But, his performance in this is incredible. And, again, there is obviously, like we're saying, the voice for the entirety of his career that, I guess in some ways, you're going to obviously be able to get away with the fact that you can just play the songs in the background as well, too. But to be able to have the movement as well, too, that Michael had, like, kid Michael, Giuliano, I guess, what does he go by? I don't know. But, I guess Julie, I guess, wouldn't necessarily be, like, short for Giuliano or something like that. But, the be able to, portray those same type of skills is obviously very, very impressive. And, it's going to be impressive whenever you do it in your career as well, too. But, obviously you gotta give the kid props. You got to give the kid props. If his performance is as good, is it a little bit better because he's the child star? I don't know. But it is legitimately, one of the great child star performances in movies. What do you've got? The kid on Man on Fire. We were just talking about that because of the Man on Fire show reboot. So I guess who is the kid now in the Man on Fire show? That could be, in competition. Is that a new Oscar? Do we need to separate the Oscars as well too? Maybe because you could just have like a teen, like a next gen sort of Oscar. Where it would be, again, to maybe portray some of those, because you do obviously get times where I think child stars and teen stars have been nominated. I guess what Chalamet got nominated as well too. I'm trying. Did like Macaulay Culkin ever get nominated? But I'm trying to think. There has been maybe for like a horror. I guess for The Exorcist. Did the kid in The Exorcist get nominated? Maybe. So there have been times where it has obviously happened. I don't know what the youngest to win the Academy Award is. I guess Leo didn't win one for a while there, but did Leo get nominated, early on in his career for a role? I don't know exactly how old he was when, he took Titanic as well too. But if you're, 12 21, 22. I think now, I guess that wouldn't be, the point of the Oscar. I guess, where are we dividing it up at that point? Again, there are performances where you're like, that was just every bit as good. I guess, what was the show that just dropped about the kid that murdered the other kid? Is it called Adolescence? Is that the name of the show? I feel like there was definitely that's definitely it. That is definitely it. Yeah, drama series. Like, this kid got nominated for some stuff, right? Owen Cooper, maybe he did. I don't know. So a Golden Globe potentially. An Emmy. There we go. Primetime Emmy. Did he get the win? Or did he get the nomination? He won! Whoa! Over Peter Skarsgård and Javier Bardem. Hey, yo, chat. So, again, there are times when you go, the child actor, I guess, just did straight up have the better performance. Horror is going to be one where that would be true a lot of the times because, again, a lot of times they're going to be asked to do more in a horror movie than they're going to be asked to do in other films where, you're going to actually be having to deal with possession and, being a main driver of the plot. I'm sure there's like feel-good family story type of movies where it's like, maybe this kid's dealing with some type of stuff and, the overcoming the struggle of that. I guess, they're powerful performances. I'm sure there I guess I shouldn't be laughing, but there is a movie that my sister really likes, because I guess I'm more laughing because of the type of movie that she likes. We all know what I'm saying, that feel-good family story that's like an easy watch. Hey, yo, I don't want to stereotype her. She's got a good heart. It is what it is. What, she likes to feel good. She likes to, let that family story, that drama, that feel-good drama, I guess, to just commit to what we were saying there. Hey, yo. But there was it's not The Wonder Years, because The Wonder Years is a TV show. Maybe it's Wonder. I'm trying to remember what that kid's name is. I feel like he had a run as well, too, for a second. Yeah, 2017 film. I don't know if he got nominated for this role. Yeah, Jacob Tremblay, he may have had a nomination at some point, though. I guess, a couple other cast members as well, too. I guess also Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson in this movie. But an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Hey, yo, I guess I didn't realize Wonder was crushing amongst critics like that back in the day. But this is, and I'm not saying that these are the recent, I'm trying, again, I know that one because in 20, I remember hearing about that one a lot for sure. I guess we'll have to ask her. Is Wonder still in the rotation 10 years later? Hey, yo, I'm going to say respectfully to Wonder, no, but there is a chance. There is a chance that she's like, yes, I love going back to that movie. That's an all-time classic. Because, again, that type of, it's not a Hallmark. Because a Hallmark's more of a, the relationship type of movie. But it's more that, that family drama type of movie. I guess Adolescence, 97%. I guess drama is not the right word as well, too. But, 97% for Adolescence on there is, again, that show was obviously crazy, but that'll be like we're saying, a performance you have to give credit to as well too, and it's like a pretty good chunk of the movie as well. Again, in a 2-hour runtime, I would say that I guess we weren't timing it out, but how many paragraphs is the Jackson 5 story here in the plot? I guess one paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4.5 paragraphs. So yeah, 20% of it. I was gonna say 15%. Hey, yo, I was gonna say 15 minutes, maybe 50. What's 15% of 127 if it's a 2:07 runtime? But some of that's credits, obviously. So I don't know, 2:02 technically on the runtime. But what are we saying? What's 15%? So 18 minutes of Jackson 5. I think it could have been pretty close. Maybe it was more like 12 to 15. I guess we'll have to time it out when it drops on streaming. That'll be, I don't know exactly where it is going to drop on streaming because it is a Lionsgate film. So I don't know exactly where that. Oh, Universal? So is that Peacock? Oh, I guess it's going to be on Peacock. Hey, yo, I guess The Wiz has been on Peacock recently, but is that where it lands if it's not on Tubi or whatever? Does it go to Peacock? Hey, yo. So we'll get The Wiz and then Michael. And then what other? Because he hasn't been in a ton of other movies. Obviously, Janet is the movie star. Hey, yo, it's just poetic justice, just carrying. I think is what it is. Poetic Justice versus The Wiz. The Wiz is probably a better movie. Not even probably. It is what it is. I guess. Have we seen Poetic Justice more times? Are we going to watch? We're going to have to watch Poetic Justice tonight because unfortunately we didn't get to see any Janet Jackson in this Michael Jackson movie. Hey, yo. It is what it is. I guess, shout out, when they meant this movie was about the Jackson 5 in the beginning, that's really what they meant. Hey, yo. It is what it is. I guess, Janet Jackson in a couple of those scenes where they're practicing, she's, just, I guess, scheduling at that time in the day, off doing something else. That's really what it was. Because I guess, it's not like I guess we'd have to go back and go, see what the dynamic of the performances was there. Because it was just, again, I wasn't putting the group together, but it was just the guys, right? So it's not like the scenes, because it is a lot of the Jackson 5 scenes, and, again, a lot of the scenes in the movie, but I think more so specifically for the Jackson 5 is them performing as well too. But then you get them moving into the studio as well. So again, there is legitimate scenes where, it's like, okay, they're omitting certain characters might not be crazy for those individual scenes. Again, omitting them from the story is one thing as well too. Like, this person just didn't exist. Hey, yo, like that's obviously not true. But, again, for where they were at individually in the stories, I think that could have maybe made sense. There is obviously one point where they're like in the studio all sitting together, and it's like maybe they just would have been all together there, or again, like they're just like returning home a couple times after performing, and it's like, I guess, did Janet already just have her own house at that time? Like, I don't know exactly what was going on, but, I guess, were we just on a first name basis, chat? Hey, yo, I guess, but not Miss Jackson. I guess now we're, that's a different thing now as well too. But either way, the Outkast biopic. I guess we haven't had an Outkast biopic. I was thinking about that as well too. What's next? But the Outkast biopic would be crazy. Hey, I'm gonna write that down. And then are we gonna get the rights to that after we acquire the rights to Bloodsport 6? I don't know, but it is obviously a legendary one that we haven't gotten. I mean, that's one where we have gotten Outkast in movies. But it's not like Outkast necessarily, Outkast never did their version of like ATL or something like that. They had obviously, by the time that 2000s run had gone into effect, they were not necessarily, like Eminem does that earlier on in his career, 50 Cent as well. That's all, I guess ATL is what for T.I.'s fourth album. But for Eminem and for 50 Cent, that was like second or third album for Eminem, after the first official studio album for 50 Cent as well too. But I guess for Outkast, they never did that sort of rapper biopic story that we get, the different version of it where it's actually them. Is it the rapper autobiographical movie, the autobiodrama? Maybe that's what we need to call it. Maybe that's what these need to be called. We need to stop calling them like music biographies or whatever, music biopics. I guess we're not calling them biographies. It's not a graphy, right? It's a well, I guess it could be photography, but photography is going to be on the page, right? Unless it's photography is on the screen, then it's cinema. Hey, yo, chat, now my brain can't handle this. What are we even talking about anymore? I don't even know. But either way, biodramas, because, they obviously can, be a little dramatic, over or under with the story, depending on how they want to tell it. But either way, I guess, shout out. We'll get to the Outkast biopic later. Hey, yo, that would be crazy. But regardless, shout out to the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson perform, all the Jackson 5 performers there earlier on. But obviously, in terms of characters throughout the whole movie as well too, you get Coleman Domingo and Nia Long introduced early in the movie as the parents. Coleman Domingo right away as well too. I mean, Coleman Domingo, obviously, if you know, one of the best actors that we have in the game. I don't think we discuss Coleman Domingo in an all-time status quite yet, and that is, I think, because he's, to his credit, currently very, very, strongly acting as well too. But I was, and again, I tread lightly as I say this because Denzel is, Denzel's our favorite of all time. So nobody's going to be better than Denzel. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that Coleman Domingo's having a better career than Denzel Washington. But I was just thinking about, actors for where Coleman Domingo is at. Like, I don't know, Coleman Domingo at 56 versus, Denzel, is Denzel in his 60s right now? So he's 70, 71. So again, they're not necessarily in the same point of their careers. It's like again, comparing LeBron to Giannis or something like that, where it's like, well, Giannis is, maybe moving into his 32, 33. He might not be like his 28-year-old self, but still obviously as good as he can be as a player. And then, LeBron is obviously, can still be great, but again, he's not going to be even his, 32-year-old self at this point. Though I guess LeBron hasn't aged a day, Chad. Hey, it is what it is. So, again, I guess Denzel at 56 could have played anybody. And, would have Denzel have been in this type of movie at 56 where, early on it's like he would have been, I think he would have potentially, just done a high-level anticipated movie, like a Michael movie. But I was like, just in terms of who could have done that role at that level, I guess the point is, I don't think anybody could have done a better job in that role at that than Coleman Domingo did. And really, I guess that just goes for the entire cast, to be honest. And like I was saying earlier, like this being a great acted movie, but I'm not saying that lightly. Hey, like I do think like legitimately, and debate what you want about the story, the acting in this movie alone is good enough to just make it rewatchable. Like legitimately one of the best. I haven't necessarily have kept up with new movies since Sinners. Like I probably have seen like 3 or 4 since then, but this is legitimately the best acted movie since then, in my opinion. And again, obviously Sinners is a great story as well too, a great narrative. One of the best crafted movies. The texture of that, the cinematography, again, it's perfect on every level. The score, having an original score versus, again, I guess there is a scoring element to this film as well too. The way they weave in the tracks, and it is really great as well too. There are times where you're getting the scored version of some of those pop songs, and it's like, oh, they're really, they're remixing it well. They're doing a good job. I guess we'll have to see who was on the score here. Let's see. We've got cinematography. Dion Beebe. Is that the guy from the Super Bowl? Hey, yo. I guess produced music by Leor Rosner. Already? Oh, no. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are we back? We should be back soon. Okay, there we are. I think we're back and going now. But, hey, yo, I guess I'm going to try to look up the Score album and see what they have here. No, they just have right now songs from the motion picture. So we'll see if that actually does become a thing. Because, again, there were a couple of times where it's like, yeah, obviously they're scoring some of those tracks. I'm trying to remember, there was one where a couple emotional beats. Was it like a Billie Jean maybe, or a Human Nature? I don't know. It could have been any of them. It is what it is. But, either way. Again, I'm not saying I don't know this. I'm not saying obviously I know the songs. But just which one were they? I guess probably all of them at some point. But, either way, we'll stay tuned for that version as well, too. The Leor Rosner version of the album. Any relation to Trent Reznor? Hey, yo, chat. That joke on the Metacritic might be worse than the movie. Hey, yo, it is what it is. We just had to get one, on the Metacritic like that just to make the movie feel better. It is what it is. I guess, again, it's winning on the audience score. And same with the Tomatoes as well, too. It's playing out the same way as IT sits here and tracks the Rotten Tomatoes score. 37% on the tomato meter, but the popcorn meter, 97. 97. It might be legitimately one of the biggest pause discrepancies. What's Booty Call at, chat? Hey, yo. I think Booty Call did not necessarily have the critics in it was not critically reviewed like that. 59% on the popcorn meter for Booty Call? No way. No way. Has there been like a recent, just speaking of discussing movies, do we need to, have a discussion about Booty Call? I don't know. 59%. I'm baffled, chat. I'm disgusted with humanity right now. I guess, well, maybe in a conversation about the topics at hand, we don't need to make jokes there. But, either way, what are we saying? What's even another movie that... Hook? I don't know. Do we just have a list of movies with low Rotten Tomato scores under, in the belt? 37 for Hook, 76% for Popcorn Meter for Hook. Hey, yo. I guess Marty Supreme, these are all highly rated critic movies. Oh, here we go. Balls Up, 22%. I don't know what this is, but let's see what the audience review for Balls Up is. Is this like Michael? Oh, chat, only 26% for Balls Up. Oh, it's a Mark Wahlberg comedy? Hey, yo. Well, now the pieces are starting to fall into place. Hey, yo. I guess marketing executives Brad and Eli, Paul Walter Hauser, go balls out to pitch a bold, full-coverage condom sponsorship with the World Cup. After their drunken celebration in Brazil sparks a global scandal, they must outrun furious fans, criminals, and power-hungry officials to salvage their careers and make it home alive. See, chat? This movie is actually 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. I haven't even seen this yet, and I'm good. I'm good. I guess, condom sponsorship for the world, I guess it's fine. It's a fine premise. I mean, I guess, I'm sure, Mark Wahlberg, I guess a guy in his 40s, just talking about condoms is probably funny to him. So, I guess, again, it's funny. Like, hey, condoms, ah, ha, ha, we all laugh. Hey, yo. Who's cool? We don't use them. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But, after, and there, I guess, World Cup as well, too, big scale. So it's like, are they going to crash, a soccer game or something? I guess they're on... speaking of Balls Up, I guess that's kind of the double entendre there. So it is a clever movie, I guess. Hey, yo. But I guess you can literally see what somebody was thinking. They're like, hey, yo, balls like condoms and soccer. We got them. That's a comedy right there. I guess, do we like the fact that just dumb comedy is back? Hey, yo. They're like, let's just not care about it. If it's just a dumb, fun premise with 2 stars, let's just let them act and see. But, and... and people want to say what happened to comedy. Rem and Sam take on the industry here. Do we not have comedians anymore? Or they don't let comedians act in movies like this, obviously. And, you could obviously look back at the improv that comedians were doing in movies and be like, well, what was the improv that these comedians were doing that we were all laughing about so much back in the day? I get to some degree, again, why comedies have changed, and if you're going to have a smart written comedy, again, they're different versus the let's cast 2 stars to improv type of thing. But again, all of the great comedies, I guess not all the great comedies, but just when I think of comedy, that's the first thing that I think of. To me, it's Eddie Murphy being funny in a scene. It's Chris Tucker being funny in a scene. Again, that's a very specific example of a guy in those ways. But even Will Ferrell, Jim Carrey, obviously those guys are, the stars for their own era, like Eddie Murphy was in his. So, I mean, again, we're talking about one-on-ones, again, the lineage of the stars, the faces of the league. So it's well, why can't everybody be, LeBron, Jordan, and, Kobe? Hey, yo, why can't everybody be Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey, and Will Ferrell? It's well, that's not totally fair. But the recipe, more often than not, and Jim Carrey did definitely, and same with Eddie Murphy, they definitely did do some smart scripts later in their career. Truman Show, I guess I don't know how much of that is improv, but that's obviously a really high concept movie. Jim Carrey was definitely gravitating toward that type of stuff. You see some of the stuff Eddie Murphy's doing, Norbit was on the other day. Hey, yo, the Rotten Tomato scores for Norbit is definitely going to be different than the Truman Show. But you're Eddie Murphy's doing he's doing nuanced character work in Norbit for a comedy. Again, ayo, the concept's a little different than the Truman Show. I think it's probably just Truman Show's just winning based on premise alone there. It is what it is. But, I guess if you go Boomerang, Eddie Murphy in Boomerang is obviously giving you a real actor performance in that movie. He can, and I guess there's going to be improv in that as well too, where it's more subtle and real, here is actually how he would be funny in day to day as well too. And that really is, I guess, now, Eddie Murphy rant. I guess, but Michael Jackson loved Eddie Murphy, so he would, I guess, love, to talk. If Michael Jackson was here, if we were interviewing Michael Jackson, hey, yo, do we need to have AI Michael Jackson on? No, chat. The state's going to take us out just for saying that. Hey, yo, it is what it is, just for suggesting it. That YouTube might have already shut down. They might have already shut down the live stream. And, obviously, I guess, hey, yo, if we could get AI Michael Jackson, would we get, or I guess we could get like a Michael Jackson impersonator or something. There is that guy that we've been seeing on the reels that's been like hiring the impersonators to just show up at his house, and he'll just like, I guess he has the meta glasses on, and then he just has the Michael Jackson performer will just do the performance just, in the living room, and then they just hang out for a little bit, like, play some Mario Kart or something. And it's like, hey, that's pretty funny. There was like I said Austin Myers. Hey, yo, there was an Austin Powers, Mike Myers version as well too. That was pretty good. And then, hey, maybe like a Santa. The Santa one is fine, but Santa's not really like an impersonation. Hey, yo, like, are they all going? I guess there is like a main Santa that they kind of all do impersonate. Hey, yo, I guess, do we need, a Santa rebrand? It's time, chat. Hey, yo, who cares? Like, Santa, I guess obviously not to throw the other way, like, but I'm just saying, like, Santa, the beauty of Santa is Santa can be anybody. Hey, yo, like, Santa doesn't have to be one look. Hey, yo, maybe it's time for a rebrand. Maybe Mrs. Claus is the one that delivers the gifts, at Christmas, and maybe Mr. Claus is the one that is the one that helps with the prep. And I'm not saying Mrs. Claus helps with the prep. Hey, yo, but I'm just saying, like, whatever the other responsibilities are in that case. Like, obviously maybe Mr. Claus, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we need to rebrand. Maybe Santa Claus, Santa. I guess it's not like Santa Claus, right? Santa Claus. It's Santa Claus. So maybe you're right. Maybe we don't need, maybe Santa Claus is Mrs. Claus now, and then Mr. Claus is, Santa Claus is now just Mr. Claus, and we call him that. Hey, yo. But I guess either way, what do we talk about? Eddie Murphy? I guess Michael Jackson he loved Eddie Murphy, so he would want us to talk about Eddie Murphy either way. And I guess the point is, because this is I think actually this needs to be said in the state of comedies is, again, that's when they're at their best, is when they let the comedians cook. And again, there are good, like Mark Wahlberg, I'm sure he could be, they're good scripts, high concept scripts. Get like him in The Departed or something. Like, there are, good roles that he can be taken. Hey, yo, I guess I hope for his sake. Hey, yo, maybe. But, again, if it's just, if the comedy star right now is Mark Wahlberg is going to improv a movie, like Ted, Mark Wahlberg is funny. Remin Sampod eviscerates Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg, call in and defend yourself. Hey, yo, Mark Wahlberg's funny. What am I saying? I'm not going to sit here and, say Mark Wahlberg's not funny. But I'm just saying, like, is Mark Wahlberg going to do the thing that Will Ferrell does in a movie? Like, is he going to do the thing that Eddie Murphy does in a movie? Like, he's just not going to do that thing. Hey, yo. And, again, that's a totally different tier. Like, did Martin Lawrence ever... I guess Martin Lawrence was in Bad Boys. So, yes, he did have a movie on the scale. He had movies on that scale. For sure. But did Martin Lawrence ever have, like, the solo comedy do the same thing that Beverly Hills Cop did? I mean, I guess, he obviously had a sitcom. Yeah, Eddie Murphy was on SNL. Again, Eddie Murphy is, one of the great comedy stars of all time. So, compare anybody. Again, it's like comparing somebody to Michael. Again, it's like, compare him who you want. Chris Tucker, if we're talking, like, Chris Tucker is kind of the Kobe in that sense in Rush Hour, where it's like, okay, he is obviously, the Rush Hour performance there is it the most similar to Beverly Hills Cop? But again, there is obviously, the formula is the same in some ways. And, there are obviously moments of, you say improv from Chris Tucker as well, too. And, Beverly Hills Cop has some scenes as well, too, where it's like, okay, obviously there's a scene where, like, the way the hotel guy approaches a certain, topic about, the Eddie Murphy in that situation, like with the Eddie Murphy trying to pretend to be a gay man in that situation, the way the hotel guy is like reacting to it. I mean, there is a sense where it's like, yes, people do react to it in that way. So that is obviously, a way that it can be portrayed. But then there's also like is this handled with care as well too in this moment that, obviously everybody is being, appropriately honored in the right. But again, with comedy as well too, there is the extremist side of things, So again, I mean, bring back the underqualified degree as well. But what I'm saying is, for the most part, again, you look back at the things that Eddie Murphy was able to improvise situationally. I mean, there's so much funny situational stuff in those movies, and again, same with, like I'm saying, like, well, I mean, that's probably the big three in terms of that. So like, who again, in history, I almost just said in NBA history. I don't even, probably less in NBA history, but who in movie history could you just put in a movie and just let them cook like that? From a comedy standpoint, I think Denzel, like, never really, like, again, did Beverly Hills Cop, like, as a full comedy. Like, at that point in his career, he did tend to be more, even in the action roles, tend to lean more toward the serious action roles or just the actiony action roles. Again, do you say, is Deja Vu a serious action role? Is Man on Fire a serious action role? But, it's an action role, that's for sure. And Denzel is obviously great in it. And, I think his performance makes Training Day, like, a great action role. More so, but it's such a great premise as well, too. More so than, like, I guess Deja Vu, Deja Vu is such a great premise as well. I don't know. But, either way, I guess, what are we talking about? Balls Up? Hey, that's a review for a movie we didn't see. But we already saw it, chat. We already saw it. We know that. But either way, again, that movie, I guess, if that movie is that close to the Michael Jackson movie, again, the audience score, I guess, is what we were going for there. And we see the 97 on the Michael. So, yeah, somebody let us know, what is the largest discrepancy here for audience score to popcorn to tomato meter? What do we have? Because I would have... I guess, is there like a Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that? Because, like, the Marvel movies, like, got pretty good reviews. I don't know, maybe some early Batman or something. Like, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Hey, this is the last one we're going to check here. Let's see what we've got for... But this still might even be, like, in the 50s for critic scores. It is what it is. Is the Michael movie better than... 51%, 64% for the popcorn meter. Is the Michael movie better than Amazing Spider-Man 2? I say yes, chat. I say yes. Would I rather... I mean, now... this is another one. Speaking of performances. Like, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone literally do make the Spider-Man... Like, the best portrayal of Spider-Men. I mean, Spider people. Spider character that we've seen on screen. With the Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker combo there. I guess outside live action. I should say live action because, Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie that we've gotten up until this point. The first Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie, of all of them. Hot take, hey, yo. But because the live action performances, Andrew Garfield is our Spider-Man. It is what it is. He was the Spider-Man that we watched when we were growing up. So... that's kind of the guy we just have that nostalgic connection to. And speaking of runtime, they gave Amazing Spider-Man 2 222. They're like, we're going to let him cook. Hey, yo, the first Spider-Man was pretty good. We got Emma Stone's becoming a major star. Like, let's really go all out for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Jamie Foxx, this is going to be an epic. This is going to be an epic. Again, Jamie Foxx is good in that movie. I don't know, was that character all character choice, or is it, was it all director? We're going to say it was all director, chat. In that Jamie Foxx, with what they told him to do in that movie, that he cooked. Hey, yo. Now, if he decided to, have all that stuff, then, maybe do we reevaluate? I mean, we're not ranking it in the all-time, we're not saying Jamie Foxx performances. It's Ray, Booty Call, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2. Though, if we're talking about... obviously, Jamie Foxx movies that we watch. I mean, Booty Call, Amazing Spider-Man 1, then that might be the order at that point. Or, I don't know, Breaking All the Rules, I guess. No, Booty Call might be, it might be the number one Jamie Foxx movie. I don't know, it is what it is. But I guess not number one Jamie Foxx movie. I should say most watched runtime. And is it a Jamie Foxx movie or is it a Vivica Fox movie as well, too? I guess that's a debate for the rewatch episode there. But what are we saying? Either way, we actually got to get to the performances and actually mention the good ones. Like we were saying, they're all great. But yes, Coleman Domingo to start is absolutely sensational in this movie, and the way that they use him as well too. I'll say as the villain of the movie, but literally there are times where there are almost like thriller-esque elements, not the music video, but the genre of movie. Like there are thriller-esque elements in the movie with the way that they use him. Like there's the one scene where Michael's like at the fridge and then he's like looking through getting a snack or something, and then he turns around, they just cut the music and he's just standing there. It's right after he's fired him and he's just holding the facts. But there are a couple times where it's just like, yada 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 yada, and then boom, like all of a sudden he's just there. And it's like, and like literally you could see in the theater, like the theater was like very, very, like this movie did play well in the theater. Again, like literally, like we're saying 97% on the audience score. I would say that is exactly how it played in the theater. The vibe was amazing with the music. I mean, literally you get Wanna Be Starting Something, the intro song on the greatest album of all time. Like the crowd is going to react to it. It is what it is. But there were times where the music is going and I'm like, oh, the surround sound is amazing here. And I'm like, oh no, wait a second. Actually, the whole row is just singing the song. It is what it is. But, again, for those moments, those story moments as well, too, like there was some effective filmmaking techniques that they did use when they cut to Joe Jackson. Like there was some obvious, and, again, there was, for the story as well, too, but for how they were cinematically portraying it in that moment, like it was working well in the theater where people were like obviously like, whoa, like when they get to those cuts or when he's on screen, it was like obvious, like, oh no, like here it comes, pause, like here is, like they can see the build up to the emotional sort of reaction or the, again, the moment that you can kind of see the scene building toward with Joe Jackson. Again, Coleman Domingo is just, like a real, like that balance of being that, kind of overly obsessed person with those types of things, and then there is a moment early in the movie where immediately they establish him with the practice type of thing where you see the obsession with him, but then he gives a little speech at the table where again, an obsessed guy, like there is a pushing the group to the level that he did, like there is a level of I tread lightly to say inspiration, but there is a level of motivation that type of person is able to get out of you. Again, obviously, there is now the line, the obsession that they're working with. They can cross that. And I mean, again, like, I don't know, is Whiplash, like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, like this type of character, you throw Whiplash on. I've been rewatching Babylon lately. Hey, I guess, should I be more specific? I guess I'm not going to expose myself. I have not been rewatching the party scene from Babylon at the beginning. Hey, that's not just a crazy chaotic scene to just throw on on loop. Hey, so we're definitely not doing that. Rewatching Margot Robbie just dance her way through that party. It's definitely not something that we've been doing recently. Hey, but I guess what are we talking about? I literally have no idea anymore. I was talking about Babylon, Damien Chazelle, Whiplash. Oh, obsessed characters. Like that's the reason I was thinking of Whiplash, because of Margot Robbie. Hey, I don't know if that's a pause or not, but either way, professional respect to the performance by Margot Robbie in Babylon. Shout out. But either way, that obsession, pushes that motivation, if I can use that word, into obviously different types of levels. As well, too, Bobby Knight was maybe this type of guy as well, where it's like there is, one of the most successful college basketball coaches we've ever had. He might, if you were doing your ranking, I guess he's probably not number 2 next to Coach K. Hey, obviously Dust, it's Krzyzewski, what's the Coach K? Hey, I haven't said his last name in forever. Oh, man, chat. Oh, man, Mike Krzyzewski? Hey, it's just been Coach K since he's written. And, obviously him not coaching as well, too. The name, not saying the name isn't around, but just literally you're just not physically saying it as much if you're talking about Duke. So, hey, we're going to have to go back and watch a couple interviews. It is what it is. But, Coach K, it's Coach K1, then Dusty May 2 if we're doing the all-time rankings. Hey, But, Bobby Knight, a great coach. Like, if you're talking about the results that Bobby Knight got, one of the great coaches. If you're talking about the methods that Bobby might have used to motivate his team, again, to use that, just to throw that word out there, and maybe even to be speaking from the perception of that person as well, too. Like, to use the, to use the methods that they did. Like, obviously, those at times cross the levels to where it's like, this is not to be okay. But, again, even early on, there was like just that, and that's, to credit the Coleman Domingo performance in this movie, where it's like not necessarily the switch that was flipped per se, because again, I guess he was always obsessed. It's just speaking of the character that he's playing, he was always working with that level of obsession. It's just the opportunity, the career advancements, the way that's going to be exemplified, continues to grow, as their careers advance. But there is just that moment of like, and as he is saying throughout time and time again throughout the film, where it's like, I'm, doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my family. There is that moment at the table at the beginning where you're like, he is doing this for his family. And like I'm saying, that the process to which that happens is too much. Like, yes, again, there are lines to this thing. You can, Popovich. Hey, to just now, we had to, I guess, find a way to bring up Coach Popovich. If we can just respectfully, compare leaders of groups, in this type of conversation is really what I'm, trying to get at here. So, to, again, being a Spurs fan, Popovich is, a legendary guy that we would think of in this situation. Like, Popovich is one of the intense guys in the NBA. Like, there is just there is an intensity, I guess, to use the word again, that he is going to bring as a coach, and he's going to require a certain level of excellence and a certain level of professionalism from you as a player. And not to say that, you're never going to have fun on the Spurs. Like, the Spurs are the Spurs are literally maybe the best community of any team in the NBA. You could maybe say of any team in sports. Like, you watch these games, it's going to be annoying as well, too, as the Spurs, as we keep going the playoff rounds and as we, but just as they're in the limelight with Wemby. Like, people are going to be like, we get it, like, Spurs family, yada, yada, yada. But it is, like, a real thing. Like, all these guys love each other, and Pop is, like, a patriarch godfather of that situation. Like, it really is, like, a connection. It's a connection through Popovich that these guys have that has, like, really just formed this NBA family. And again, it is brought these guys in community, and there is still, like I'm saying, an intensity and a level of excellence that he was able to demand from everybody throughout the course of his career, but obviously was able to manage that in a way that, balanced, like I'm saying, that that balance, that bringing people together effect. And, again, I'm just comparing, two individual people as, hopefully we can respectively as, just celebrity icons and as, like I'm saying, high profile leaders in their situations. So, again, but either way, for what, Coleman Domingo was portraying there on screen was just a really riveting, a really captivating, and again, at times, a scary, if you could even say that, like a legitimately scary person, where again, the theater is like, oh man, like, I can't believe, like, and then, you can kind of see him start to gear up, especially early on. He takes the belt off to beat Michael with it. Again, those early years. But, after that as well, too, that's kind of that first scene where it really establishes, like, again, the obsession is going to push him to go too far here and to what he wants, again, for the family, but even for the brand as well, too. Obviously, those terms being interchangeable as well, too. And that again, is what happens as well. Like, I think early on, there is that level of, yes, this is for the family, because that's what they had. They didn't really have the brand at that point. They just kind of had the family. But as the brand, evolves, then it is really like, and he is saying that later, like, the brand is what we have. The brand is what we have. And, again, you can see him kind of, there's that spiral that happens. The intensity where he's sitting at the desk and the two executives go to tell him that Michael wants to do off the wall. And that scene as well, too, really drives home sort of the coldness, I would say, of the relationship, and just the straight business relationship that it was not even really a relationship in some ways, but just, the straight business partnership, the straight business, acquaintanceship that they're calling him Joe the whole time, obviously, as well, too. There's the whole scene with, and I guess I got to get Lorenz Tate's character's name right as well, too. We're going back to the T.E. Lawrence Wikipedia page. Probably not. Lorenz Tate, Barry Gordy. was the producer that he was playing, the Motown president that he was playing in this movie. And, you know, there's the whole scene with him, like, kind of being a parental figure toward Michael as well, too. And, you know, just how obviously, you know, impactful that is in that moment for a younger Michael. Because, you know, again, obviously, he just very obviously they're kind of saying that, you know, they don't really have that father figure in their life. You know, he is, you know, Joe is obviously being, you know, the business manager for them. And, you know, that, like I'm saying, that scene where he's like, you know, he literally says, I own Michael from 9 to 5 is like, you know, again, you really see the, whoa, like, this isn't really that sort of family relationship anymore. This really is that sort of business thing. And as a driving narrative through the movie, I think that really does work as well, too. Because, again, if you're, you know, again, to filter, how many filters can we put on this movie for the type of story that we're going to tell? But if you're going to cut the movie off at the bad years as well, too, because I do think that there is a, you know, there's separations for other reasons. But I think the person, once Michael becomes that biggest star in the world, I mean, I think there is a whole, yeah, obviously there's so, like I'm saying, there's so many movies to make, but that is a real different, I think that is a stopping point for a project. I think you can tell in some ways, you know, a complete career arc or a version of a complete career arc in that time frame that they, in the album time frame that they did. Again, there are other musical projects and the way that he starts to, you know, really, you know, the budgeting in the short films, the stars that he's hanging out with at the time as well, too, the sort of just celebrity presence that he is. You know, he always was a celebrity. You know, he was the biggest star in the world amongst fans, obviously, up until, you know, Bad and stuff, but then he moves into becoming the biggest star amongst stars in the industry, and there's just like a different, you know, that's like a smaller group of people, obviously, but there's just a different level of fame, because that's even in your, I mean, that's like in your own city as well, too. I mean, once you can't even go out in your own city, you know, bring back Eddie Murphy. I mean, hey, yo, now we're, you know, there's a reason why Eddie Murphy and Michael Jackson probably got along. Because it's like, well, I guess, you know, we're literally the two biggest stars in the world. We can't go outside. So, you know, I guess, hey, yo, this is it. We're going to be friends. Shout out. Like, what's up? My name's Eddie, you know, shout out. But for, you know, how they're able to move at that time with that type of star power, it is a completely different thing. And again, that is where he has broken free creatively to kind of become his own person as well, too. And to see Michael's growth kind of reflected in that relationship with his manager father in that sense, you know, I think it does work for the movie. And again, I think it really did keep for the extended music video version of the movie. I think it did really keep people engaged in, you know, what was, you know, again, do people say the loose narrative of the film, you know, they're barely hanging together by a thread. I don't know what the quotes are, but again, in the theater, people were, you know, genuinely, I think, reacting appropriately to the Joe Jackson scenes, and they were also, you know, reacting, you know, again, the scenes with some of the animals and stuff, like how that plays into the narrative is of the Michael Jackson life story is one thing. I'm not saying that. How it played into the narrative of how the movie was made is another thing. And people were, you know, there were moments where it's like, let's bring in a little bit of a comedic effect here, and people were genuinely laughing at it. So again, like, you know, people were 97%, you know, audience score entertained the whole time for this movie, and it was a full theater that I was in as well, too. Like, I'm, you know, the Midwest, you don't really, you know, again, maybe it's just city size in general, ayo, pause, you know, ayo, but you don't really get like packed out theater. And especially, you know, I went the Tuesday after, well, so I guess maybe I just need to go to, I haven't been in a Tuesday screening in a while, so, you know, maybe that budget night is the night that everybody goes. But I'm just thinking, like, the times that I have been to movies on opening nights and stuff, like, you know, I've been to some pretty good theaters, but outside of, you know, Avengers Endgame, I honestly think that this Michael theater was probably the most full theater that I've been in since Avengers Endgame, if I'm being honest. Like, you know, again, I don't know how many, that's probably been, what, 6-7 years at that point? So, you know, hey, yo, even if you know, 2 movies a year would be a great pace. Have I seen 12 movies in the theater since then? And, some of those are going to be, even like if we're just talking Marvel. Again, I know I've seen a bunch, I guess, a bunch of the Marvel movies since then. But none of the Marvel movies are going to be, as populated as the Avengers Endgame theater. I mean, just look at the box score. Ayo, just look at the box office for Avengers Endgame. It's literally the most, best-selling movie of all time. And this Michael movie, I think, is on pace to open as the best, as the number one opening for a music biopic of all time as well, too. So again, the commercial success is definitely going to be there. But hey, the Coleman Domingo performance is great. We do also have to talk about Nia Long as well, too, because this is, and, again, speaking of underqualified, I'm definitely underqualified to sit here and talk about the opportunities that are available to certain actors at, given moments in their career, just whenever it may be. So, if I sit here and say, Nia Long hasn't been in as much stuff since whenever, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not necessarily, sitting here educated enough to talk about what's available in the industry and, what she's even been pursuing in her own career as well, too, for opportunities. But it's just great to see her in, a major movie, her as a star in a major way. And this is, I was kind of looking back at the filmography as well, too. Like, this is going to be a defining role in her career. Like, she hasn't really done, like, I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm just saying, like, for the roles that she's had in her career, like, she hasn't necessarily had, like, a character work type of role. So, not to say that, she hasn't got to flex her acting chops because, she has, one of the great movie filmographies that anybody's ever had. Boys in the Hood, Friday, Love Jones, Soul Food, In Too Deep. In Too Deep, chat? Hey, yo. Like, what are we talking about here? That's LL Cool J, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's also Nia Long and Omar Epps, but it's LL Cool J as well, too. Pam Grier? Stanley Tucci? Hey, yo. What are we talking about? Held Up? Held Up? Come on. Bringing back Jamie Foxx. Did we say The Best Man? And what do we got? The Best Man Holiday as well, too. Keanu? I forgot she was in Keanu. I haven't seen Keanu in a minute. So we need to watch that. 47 Meters Down, I guess, a shark movie. I'm not going to watch it. So unfortunately, I will watch it if Nia Long is in it. And Corinne Fox as well, too. Okay, I maybe changed my mind, chat. But the principle of the matter is I usually don't watch shark movies. And then Fatal Affair with Omar Epps as well, too. Is that I think they're kind of going for that Michael Douglas, Glenn Close situation, if I'm not mistaken. I guess we have to throw. Is this on Netflix? I might have to throw that one on as well, too. Any Omar Epps, Nia Long vehicle is going to be worth it for sure. But, again, in terms of, obviously, there is an importance, again, to sort of telling a big story like this as well, too. So not to say that, again, like her character in Best Men, the character work there wouldn't be as meticulous, but, there is something, again, to that biographical portrayal that is just going to be a little bit harder to pull off, and she is able to, be amazing in this film, and then to have to be acting, opposite of Coleman Domingo as well, too, with the way he's performing, and go toe-to-toe with him there is incredible, but then also to be the emotional, sort of opposite in the way that he is, just in, like, the absolute perfect sense where, like, Coleman Domingo is, really using his words and his presence as well, too, in this movie, but also really using his words and his actions to portray, his character in, again, say it could be a larger topic of conversation, but it's not like Nia Long's character has a lot of lines in this movie. And even the lines that she does have, like, a lot of them are just like her, like, I can just see it on the script now. It's not even a line. It's just like Michael and his mom on the couch watching TV. And it's just like, okay, Nia Long, go. Like, this is your scene. Again, it's not even like they're really giving her scenes in this. But there's another scene, again, early on, I think after the first time that we do see, I'm going to use the word discipline, but, we'll see Joe Jackson discipline Michael in the way that he does, with the belt in the early part of the movie. And then Nia Long just goes to the bathroom door where Michael is, afterwards he's crying in the bathroom after that. And, Nia Long goes to the door and she just knocks on the door and she's like, Michael, it's your mother. And that's literally just all that she says in that scene. And she just kind of like, he's just kind of having his moment there of, doing his thing. And, she lets him be in that moment. And, she processes that, for, I guess, the betterment of him in that moment. And, whatever, I'm not like rehashing the parenting techniques. I'm just saying like her gravity and her presence in that scene with really just a simple line and the way she's just knocking on the door and the way she's just kind of looking through the door at Michael. And it's just like, incredible actor. And again, like but like I'm saying, do not say that every movie as well too is not like a serious movie. But again, some, In Too Deep, Held Up, like there is a tone of those movies that sometimes might not always, require the best performance. Again, action movies can be elevated when, people are giving excellent performances, even if it's a lighter tone. It's just like a commitment to whatever that movie is. And that's always been, her. She's been a great actor as well too in a career. Obviously one of the legendary actors. But this is, I think, if we were, again, do you want to rank it as a movie or rank it as a role, however you want to rank it? For her career, I think it is a real defining role for sure. It is just an incredible job of being the, kind of the one human friend that Michael has in this movie as well too. Again, speaking of the movie, but also kind of the broader sense of the movie universe in the fact that, the one person that he was connecting with in a real human way, was his mom. And again, obviously, again, Nia Long is legitimately one of the great movie moms, I think, that we have now. I spent 2020's movies moms. Hey, do we have to go for Nia Long's character, or I guess what's the character name? Who's the lady that runs the shop in Sinners? And then she makes the sign for him, and then afterwards, the husband goes to the car to go out, outside after the vampires attack, and then he gets bitten, and then she cries out afterwards, and then all the vampires go in. I don't know, she's like, we need to get back to the kids. But then she's the one that actually tells the vampires it's time to, gives the vampires permission to break into the juke joint and then, kill everybody at that point. So, again, I don't know if that was necessarily best movie mom behavior. If we're just comparing those two characters, that's it. Just those two characters in the sense, maybe Nia Long, I don't know how she would have navigated that situation, but, I guess we'll have to chat GPT. How would Michael Jackson's mom have navigated being held up in a juke joint? I guess, I guess we tread lightly, but, just for the movie scenarios of it all. But, either way, just to go back to complimenting Nia Long, like we should, and the performance in this movie, it really was transcendent to see both of them two, really tear it up the way that they were. And again, obviously them being the legacy people that they were, there is that different expectation, because the next name to mention as well too is obviously the way that Jafar Jackson is able to portray Michael Jackson in this. But with Coleman and Domingo and Nia Long being the legacy people that have to carry more of the narrative in this film, there is a different expectation that they have, and they over deliver on that far above and beyond. Again, their performances are 10 out of 10, 12 out of 12, perfect in this movie. And same with Jafar as well. I actually think, and the other part is, especially for, again, people like me that weren't there for the Michael Jackson part of the story, at least we still, again, are watching the Michael Jackson music videos, The Wiz, the movies that he is in. Like, we are still seeing him out there. Like, I have never really seen, again, just to speak honestly, like, I have never really seen Joe Jackson that much, or I have never really seen Catherine Jackson as well too. That's the listed name in the credits here. So, again, all respect, but shout out. But, I've never really seen them like in interviews and in clips that much. So I don't really have like a sense of how the portrayal should go. So there is just like that captivation of, again, just Coleman Domingo is just doing a good job as an actor. I'm sure, again, for people that are more knowledgeable about who he is, and obviously there's the legends of, who Joe Jackson is as a person as well too, as, as his, do I say, character, just, there are his stories as well too that you do know. So again, I kind of expect something, but I don't have in my own mind like a physical thing to compare it to hold that expectation against. So again, it's just sort of the expectations of Coleman Domingo's performance and Nia Long's performance as performers, versus Jafar has the expectation of being a great performer, and then also the added expectation of literally portraying, like I'm saying, the biggest pop cultural star that we've ever seen. So, there is always going to be the expectation for anybody that takes on a biopic for how accurately can you portray this person, and there are going to be, lots of opinions that are going to be had. Again, speaking of Freddie Mercury, like Freddie Mercury's a major star. There are going to be a ton of ways that people are like, oh, this is, you could, bring out this side of Freddie Mercury a little more, portray him in this light, maybe a little differently, again, just judging based on like the marketing. Yeah, obviously seemed like they captured the look there pretty well. And, obviously I guess he does have the, if I could say respectfully, in terms of capturing that look, the added benefit of being, family for Michael Jackson in that sense. So that definitely does help. But if you are talking about, again, the aesthetic of Michael, of just the way that Michael, literally moved in the dancing, but the way that he just moved through life, through the music videos, through the music, like literally, I think Jafar was so good, it almost is going to work against him in some ways, if that makes sense. Like, he is so good that this is literally the point. It's like, he's so good that you think you're watching Michael Jackson, but I think he's so good that you think you're watching Michael Jackson. And you're almost like, no, wait a second, this is actually somebody like portraying Michael Jackson. Like, I'm trying to even think of a performance that has been like this. And, I'm the new movies that I've seen, I don't see all the indie films, so I don't know every performance ever. I might not be all locked in for what's going to be up for nominations. But there's no way that these people don't get nominated for this movie, those three specifically. You have to nominate Jafar for this performance. I think you have to kind of nominate Coleman Domingo and Nia Long as well. I think you have to nominate Nia Long. That, as supporting actress, is absolutely perfect. I guess we'll just have to see, again, versus, it's more just, I guess, what the field would, not say that, there's more supporting, men, actors. I'm just trying to, think about, would they, it's the all NBA case of like, how many can you have from one movie? So if you can, again, I guess I would say go 3 for 3 and nominate all 3 of them. But if for some reason you have to go 2 for 3, then it would be those 2. But, again, I don't know if it would necessarily, is it going to get like, it's probably not going to get a screenwriting nomination. It's probably, is Fuqua necessarily going to get a director nomination for this? Seeing as how the critic reviews went, but the audience reviews maybe will push the critic reviews back in another direction as well. Sinners obviously got critically reviewed pretty well right away, but then I think the audience definitely did, sort of push, not, obviously, it made the cultural significance what it was, for sure. That's just what audience reaction is. But, for the sort of in the moment importance of that movie, made sure to kind of redefine it. So I think the audience reaction will, sort of define the in the moment. If anything, the moment will just be defined as, a controversial critical movie, if anything, like, to say it in that light. But, again, for the award sense, I would say that all 3 of those people have to, I guess, even Kid Michael as well, too. That's what I'm saying, I would create a new category just to nominate all 4 of them, honestly. It is what it is. I think it would be totally appropriate. Like I'm saying, I think he is every bit as good as the Jackson 5 Michael as Jafar is with what he has to do. Again, Jafar is actually doing dialogue as the Jackson, as Michael Jackson, versus you're not necessarily, giving the Jackson 5 Michael as many just straight up lines. It was more him dancing and, portraying the music on screen. But, I mean, Jafar does the voice, and, I mean, I forget what his first line is, but that first scene where, now I forget who this, is it Quincy Jones? The first scene where it's Jafar and Quincy Jones, Kendrick Sampson in this movie, who is another revelation as well, too. A TV guy with Insecure, and it's just me not watching TV shows where I'm not as familiar with his game as a TV star. But now that he's getting a break into movies, it's like, oh man, this is I could really see his career taking off in terms of if he wants to continue to pursue movies, he's a phenomenal actor. And listening to his interview on Higher Learning as well too. Speaking of Van Lathan, again, call in and debate us about the movie. But his interview on that podcast was just you could just see his insightfulness and his knowledge of the industry, and his the way that he's able to implement what he believes into how he moves in his performances as well is just really inspiring. So I actually just really see him being a major presence in movies if he is continuing to go there. Obviously, he could land a TV role where he's a star in a TV show, and now, again, I guess if that TV, I have started to watch a little bit more TV on Tubi though. Empire always auto plays after some of these movies, so I have left it on a little bit. I have seen the first pilot episode of Empire quite a bit because of that. I'm not gonna lie. For some reason, it's like always auto playing right before we go to work. So it's like, well, I could rush to try to find something to switch over to. It's like, okay, and then it's just like, okay, I'm always going to be throwing Soul Plane on now before work or something like that. What's going to be the default? But it's like, I've just seen this pilot episode of Empire, like, maybe like 12 times at this point. At least the first, I've seen Taraji P. Henson get released from jail and the Empire pilot, like, at least 12 times in the last 12, at least, for sure, at least once a month, the last 12 months. Absolutely. It's definitely autoplayed with. So yeah, definitely in the last year, 12 times, for sure. I've not seen, probably even like to minute 30 of the pilot episode. Again, just because I don't watch TV, I'm like, am I going to commit to a whole show right now? I would, it is what it is. Blame me. At this point in my life, I'd rather rewatch a movie than watch a new TV show. I don't even know if I would have admitted that to myself in this moment, until that moment. But, right now, I think I just did. It is what it is. So, shout out. But, again, I have been throwing the Jennifer Hudson show on a little bit, a different type of show. Obviously, a talk show is different than a scripted, narrative situation. But, regardless, maybe that'll be the gateway drug just into the episodic adventure. Chad, I feel like our vocabulary is kind of a B+ tonight. Maybe more of a B-, but I feel like it's okay. Episodic, I don't know if we've ever said episodic on here once. So, there's always a first. It is what it is. But what are we saying about the performance of Jafar Jackson? Yeah, again, literally the movie, as we were saying when I, got back from break here, the Thriller music video was on. And the part where, Michael Jackson, I can't even attempt to do it, but, he's doing like the little body roll situation. I mean, Jafar doing that dance and all of the dances that he's doing in the movie, it's just like, so on point. And that is is that how the kids are saying it these days? Hey, yo. But, he's, I guess, we'll just keep it basic with the grammar. He's just doing a great job. It is what it is. But there is, again, that way that you're able to see it portrayed through the movie style cinematography versus a music video. And not to say that music videos can't be super cinematic in some ways, but there is a style to which they're made as well too, and it's okay that they can be different. And I think that wanting to see it in that type of way, again, like I maybe was making a little joke about music biopics being on Tubi later, but I do want this movie to be on streaming, and that just like, hey, let me throw this on and just have the Michael Jackson cinematic music video experience, like let's just phrase it like that, that's what it is. And again, I think that is okay. It is the Michael Jackson music video cinematic experience, and do I want to have that on in the background once every couple of months? Yeah, I actually do, because again, I'm already a fan of the music. So, I'm going to be listening to the music, and again, not to go back to what we were saying, or we were kind of already hashing that out. But again, if I'm pressing play on the music, then pressing play on the Michael Jackson cinematic music video experience is not really that much different, and you're still, again, the art you're consuming, you're still responsible to have that conversation. I guess, whether or not, the art is having it. I'm now underqualified. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point, chat. Ayo, IT might have to, AI, make that sound intelligible, but probably not, we're not going to rely on AI to, think for us. But Or maybe we are. I don't know. But either way, what are we saying? Jafar Jackson, giving him compliments. Shout out the introduction here. And, again, to capture the voice, to capture the movements, to just carry himself like the biggest star in the world, the way that he did was incredible. And I was thinking about, there's always, anytime that this type of movie drops, there's always the conversation of why now. Like, you can make a Michael Jackson movie at any point in history. Should we have made it 5 years ago? Do we need to make it 15 years now? Or from now? And, make sure that, like we're saying, the cultural conversation is in a different point, and then we can make a movie in this way, and then it can be received in a more critical, who knows? But watching Jafar in this movie, it was like, wait a second, why are they making this Michael Jackson movie now? Oh, because Jafar can play Michael Jackson. Because he could absolutely crush this role. And I think, not to go, 3D on this movie as well, too, pause. But, I think there is a little bit of the Joe Jackson, this is for the brand in this movie. And I almost wonder if this is like we have a star here. And not to say that, again, Jafar can't have his own career. But, again, for this movie being connected to the Michael Jackson estate, I don't necessarily have like the names of the producers pulled up here, but that story and the rights to that story, is tied to the estate, obviously, in that way. And the permission being granted, they definitely have, if I could say respectfully, in some way, control over the way that the narrative of his legacy is being shaped. But obviously that's just rights to his IP as well too, because he is just the business that he is. So I guess, there's two ways to say it, but they just have the rights to his IP as well. So if I'm not, did the Beatles buy the rights to the Michael Jackson movie? Hey, I guess there's the 3D chess being played. Paul McCartney produced the Michael Jackson biopic, and now he made all the money from it. Hey, yo. But I don't even remember the point that I was making. Because, Jafar. I do think that there was like we can kind of keep the Michael Jackson brand alive through Jafar, in a sense. And I do, again, wonder now what his film career will be after this, because this is such a strong performance in this way. And, again, if I could say respectfully, with him, having that family name, I think he will be tied to this in a way. I'm not saying that he'll never be, if he wants to be an actor, that he'll never be able to act, because he'll always be viewed as Michael Jackson. Again, if Michael Jackson wanted to act in movies, he could have acted, he could have gotten some roles and just been like, oh, well, I guess Michael Jackson's just like playing the whatever guy in this movie. I guess I don't want to, reduce him to some role. But if it's like, if Eddie Murphy was just like, yeah, I'll cast Michael Jackson as just some guy that we run into, I guess that's what it would be. He would probably just cast him as Michael Jackson in the movie. But Jafar could definitely get into acting. I'm sure he could definitely have I'm sure the Jackson musical talent is still there. I'm sure he could have a great, musical career if that is something that he wanted to pursue as well too. But I do think there was a little bit of like we have another, not to say that we have another Michael, but kind of we have another Michael as well too. And that's, again, no disrespect to any of the other brothers, but you can, and there is obviously a scene with Nia Long where, again, obviously it's the portrayal, so she's not actually talking to Michael Jackson, but, she's talking to the character being like, I could tell that you were special from the moment, you're different from your brothers, blah, blah, blah. And, that's obviously the mom in that moment talking, but, his fans as well, too. Again, talking about the Michael Jackson vocals that he's working with, as a kid, and just the general musical talent. Like, you could see there was a separation of, the talent that he had compared to his other siblings. And I guess, I don't have a full scope of sort of what the careers are looking like at this point for the rest of the Jackson family tree, but it's just clear that Jafar is just incredibly talented. And also, speaking of that Kendrick Sampson interview on Higher Learning that we were mentioning earlier, he was also complimenting Jafar for his discipline and his work ethic. And, I guess I'm not always saying that when I say talented, I'm saying that those two words are synonymous. Am I saying that right? But, I am in this case saying that they are. Like the talent, I guess the result of what the talent is also accomplished from Jafar's case, through hard work and discipline here. only a performance only this good, you know, it's obvious. Like, you don't just show up. You know, this is not just like, hey, he is just like, oh, Michael Jackson reincarnated and he's just able to be this way. Again, there is obviously, I think, some God-given talent that Jafar does have that is clearly like, oh, there's a little bit of there's some star power here. Like, I don't know why I feel like I have to be like, oh, you know, like, you know, Jermaine just wasn't the star, you know, but like, you know, there's a star power that they were all able to have. Like, if I could tread lightly and say, you know, Janet Jackson, again, like, you know, I don't want to only bring up women to say, like, you know, they weren't comparable to Michael Jackson. Hey, yo. But again, to compare, like, you know, Jermaine Jackson is a star in his own right. Like, Jermaine Jackson has, you know, good music, good songs. Is Jermaine Jackson, you know, again, ayo, shout out. Does it make you move the same way that Thriller makes you move? That Bad makes you move? You know, throw on, remember, do you ever... And, you know, again, I'm not trying to cut the man down. Hey, yo, but I'm just saying, comparing the musical discographies, like, are you dancing to a, you know, Jermaine Jackson song the way that you're dancing to Remember the Time by Michael Jackson? Hey, yo, you know, Jermaine's got a feature with Whitney, and it's like, this is a beautiful song. I think he's got a couple of features with Whitney. I mean, right after this, I'm gonna, I guess, now have to queue up all the Jermaine Jackson, Whitney Houston songs, just as a part of this. But you know, again, there is like a definite sort of, oh, there is some of like the extra star power here maybe with Jafar. And again, like we're saying, the acting ability, he's definitely a better actor than Michael was. I guess, again, will anybody be the musical talent that Michael Jackson is? But, you know, definitely a better actor. Michael Jackson, I think, probably, you know, as committed as he was, and you know, sometimes those high-level guys, but, you know, a lot of high-level guys can, you know, be high-level at multiple things. Hey, yo. But Chad, let's see Carl Weathers in a Michael Jackson music video, and Whoopi. Hey, yo. Shout out. So, I mean, you know, there's a whole, like, secondary, extra famous level run where it's just like, he's just like, Michael Jackson's just like in the movie, and it's just like, how many people can we have playing celebrities? So I guess, you know, I don't want to cut off talking about Jafar Jackson as well too, because again, he is the true, like, I think Coleman Domingo. You know, I was saying you had to nominate, if you have to leave one off, like, it's Coleman Domingo. Hey, I don't even know why I said that. Just I feel like I have to make some sort of you know, we don't even have to compromise with the Academy. Hey, yo, nominate all three of them. They deserve it. But, you know, Jafar is, again, the true takeaway, but not even the takeaway of being like, oh, he is the new talent. He's the takeaway as, oh, he does the best job in the movie. And that's incredible, given as, of course, it's the best job portraying the biggest star in the world. But it's like, oh, no, he actually did that. He actually did that. And again, I think literally the performance in this make this watchable. I mean, you had Laura Harrier as the creative assistant in this movie. And it was, you know, again, she hasn't done, like, a ton of movies since Spider-Man. Hey, yo. So, you know, again, because of the Spider-Man role, there is like a star power that she just does inherently have, you know, being in the MCU universe there. But now it's like, okay, you know, shout out. I see hopefully the career starting to take off a little bit there. And then, of course, you have all the different other brothers as well, too. The one performance that I was lacking a little bit, I'm not going to lie, was Miles Teller. It is what it is. I, you know, was definitely going to be like, you know, do you have to mention it? I guess we didn't have to. But we got to call him out. Hey, yo, Miles Teller, call in and defend yourself. Tell us what was going on. Tell us what kind of character. Is John, what's his name? John Brankna? Is John Brankna just that boring? He's like, well, I guess if I'm going to portray him in real life, it's going to be like this. Because, hey, yo. I was like, Miles Teller. You know, they you know. Hey, yo, they got one white guy in this movie, and he's gonna be the bad actor. Hey, yo, like, Miles Teller's got to represent, but unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. The weakness of the movie. And then Kaylin Darrell Jones as the bodyguard in this movie was great as well too. I will say, and you know, I'm not trying to take away a role from him as well too, because I was looking at his filmography, and you know, it seems like he's still trying to, you know, he's still starting to. Use my words carefully. You know, he's still starting to accumulate the movies on the filmography for his IMDb. But I was like, again, if I could tread lightly and say this, there was like a split second, because I wasn't necessarily looking at like casting lists, and I didn't watch too many trailers as well too, because I did want to, be as wowed by the spectacle of it initially. Again, I was kind of assuming that it was going to be light narratively. Again, there's so much going on here, and if you're going to dive into one thing of again, going back to the Van Lathan critique, maybe I should say, of the movie, he was saying that, like, why is this movie not like a movie about the making of Thriller? And that is probably the one, or not the one, but if you had to highlight the first sort of, non-legal situation that you had to highlight for Michael Jackson, I guess you could do a movie around probably the Super Bowl halftime as well too, or maybe something, or something about that, or again, are you gonna do like a sort of the end of the time situation? That would be I don't know if you need to go that direction as well too, but you could definitely pull out one moment and be like, hey, let's really focus on the construction of Thriller. But again, then that's not a Michael Jackson musical biopic. At that point, that's what Social Network is. That's a we need to again have a different name for that. Event-opic, a historical event-opic, not a human biography. That's a story. Again, it simply is what it is. It is about the making of Thriller, and that would be a fascinating movie. And I think again, the what I was saying about what's next for Jafar, I think will be interesting. Will he want to commit to being this guy? Because I think he can make, depending on what the Jackson estate wants to do as well too, I think he can make a legitimate, do I say full career, but a first half of his career, a first act where this is like a, if I could say respectfully, like a Marvel superhero that he does play. And, again, it's a credit to all the performances in the movie as well too. I mentioned Lorenz Tate earlier, I guess, just to shout it out again, but Kendrick Sampson as Quincy Jones, like watching those two interact, again, this would go to saying like, well, yes, why wouldn't you want to see more of, making a Thriller? But again, I think that could be a next movie. I think they laid it out. Are they just back in that little studio just putting up more Post-it notes? Like now the Thriller movie is just 2 hours of Post-it notes. Hey yo, again, but who cares? Like just go back and make a making a Thriller movie. And now all of a sudden it's, that time period sort of expanded on further, pause. But you could literally just recast Jafar as Michael Jackson and bring back Kendrick Sampson as Quincy Jones, make it an extended part of that universe, and you're good to go. I was thinking like you could literally have like a Michael Jackson extended universe of movies. Because, and not to say that Quincy Jones is his own biopic as well. Like Quincy Jones, we actually need the Quincy Jones biopic. We're going to have the Quincy Jones biopic is going to be scenes of Quincy Jones in other people's biopics. It's just going to be like, well, I guess, which actually is like I guess kind of an interesting concept, like an anthology sort of situation. I don't know. I guess in some ways, you get portrayed by different people, like we're saying your youth years, and then it switches over to your adult years, but then they'll just either, really de-age, so sort of maybe a mid-age person to kind of a 20s, or, you'll age up a person as well too to match them with the career as it goes. But it would be interesting if you just totally recasted them for like, every 10 years of their life or something like that. Every sort of major event. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. The Ray years, Lorenz and Tate, the Michael Jackson years, Kendrick Sampson. I don't know how it works there, but either way, there is a whole, like I'm saying, there's a part two, like I was saying earlier, where you go into the 90s and that could be a much more serious in-tone movie for sure. But there is also, wait a second. Okay, water break, sorry. Hey, yo, there is also a whole version of a 90s movie, like I'm saying, where it's just him moving as the biggest star in the world. And when the way that, if I can say respectfully as well too, the way they're able to transform Jafar's look to match the look that Michael had throughout the course of his life, and, where it was at by the end of the movie, at that point in his career, which was the end of the movie. Like he really captured his look at every stage. So he could just be, that sort of secondary, look Michael Jackson, if I could say that respectfully, and be that 90s version of him that was, like I was saying, 17 times already, but the biggest star in the world. That could be a very, very, successful part 2 movie, and then also a making of Thriller movie, and then you could probably also do an off the wall movie as well too, and just have 4 Michael movies. But the Michael trilogy, I mean, yes, most of the time biopics are one-offs, but I was mentioning the Tupac and Biggie biopics earlier. Like, those, there is like a extended universe that's happening there. They kind of cross over in each other's biopics. So just, a biopic universe could be something that could happen. Again, the serious part 2, maybe even it's 3 parts as well. You could have, you could literally just have the 3-part Michael story where it's, the rise to the path to the GOAT, then Michael as the GOAT, and then, Michael in court as well, if I could, and then, there's like a tone with that movie, an investigation with that movie. And I'm sure, again, Jafar, with his commitment to an acting, would be able to, properly represent the way that it needs to be represented throughout the course of his career there. But then you could also, again, have a whole separate 4th one as well. That would be the making of Thriller with him and Kendrick Sampson. That would be incredibly awesome. And then you get to recast all, the whole cast of musical stars that we didn't even get to see in this movie. You can kind of have them, working throughout in that movie as well too. I don't know why I keep thinking this in context of like was it Adam McKay did that? I can't think of the show now. That was that Lakers show. Was it? It's not. It was called Winning Time. Winning Time is the Reggie Miller documentary, obviously, but I think the Lakers show was also called Winning Time as well too. But that's the one where it's like John C. Reilly is in that or something. I guess he's the only cast member we remember, I guess, is John C. Reilly. But I don't know why I keep thinking about this Michael being like that type of situation, but it's just like, you can make a whole, multiple movie version of this as well too, which again does maybe broaden the scope at which the story is able to have the conversation, able to showcase more of Michael's life. And, also we have a moment where Jafar can do this as well too, and, actually properly be the film version of the character that we want to see. And again, if we were talking about movies that I want to see individually, I mean, I love the movie that this was. But I just, at the stage of life that I am right now, this, because I can only, talk about this moment, but if I was requesting the Michael movie right now, I mentioned it again, I would probably request that later stage Michael, where he is the biggest star in the world and he's hanging out with all these celebrities and, after, the impact is sort of there and he's doing the Super Bowl halftime. Like, I kind of want to see him be that star on screen, versus the Rise to Power. And it's like, the Rise to Power was great. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Again, not saying that, I guess, again, would it have been the first proposal of the rough draft if I was, making the movie? But I guess I'm not, am I saying I'm a better movie fan? I guess I'm just an easier movie get. It is what it is. But I guess I'm just more willing to be like, okay, that version of the Michael biopic is not the one that I would have written, but is still for the version that it is, able to get those checkpoints appropriately. So, again, I guess that's just the way that I was interpreting the biopic nature of this movie here. But I guess the other ideas I had for the extended Michael universe was also, like I said earlier, the Pac and Big rivalry. You could do a Prince biopic now as well too, and then have Michael Jackson star in the Prince biopic as the rival there. They didn't necessarily. The thing with Pac and Big is, of course, they did have like a friendship turned rival. So there is, I mean, literally, like, in Anthony Mackie plays Pac in Notorious, and then it's Big that crosses over into All Eyes on Me, not necessarily the other way around. So I guess I'm misspeaking a little bit there, but now if you're able to do a Prince biopic, and Prince does have Purple Rain, So, he's got his own movies as well out there. But, if you do the Prince biopic, you definitely could have a scene where just, like, Jafar is just in it as Michael moving around somewhere, or he's viewing it from a distance. And, I guess now that means the Michael Jackson estate has to either work with the Prince estate to get the rights to get the crossover film there, or it means that, Michael Jackson estate is now, like, owning the rights to the Prince. But again, I guess the business moves there would be a little bit more difficult to figure out. But I was like, if we can get Pac and Big in the same in multiple movies together, then maybe we could get Prince and Mike Jack in movies together. And then I was thinking, I guess this doesn't really have to do with maybe the Michael Jackson estate, but I was thinking, of course, of just the extended Michael universe, of literally just being a universe of Michael biopics. Because, of course, the 90s and stuff, the 80s and 90s, is the peak for Michaels in pop culture. I guess we have some strong Michaels today, for sure. Hey, yo, shout out Michael B. But between Jordan, Tyson, and Jackson, hey, yo, the big three. I mean, you could just have... And Douglas. Hey, yo, we forgot about Michael Douglas. The big four, the Mount Rushmore of Michaels. Hey, yo, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Michael Tyson, and Michael Tyson. Hey, yo, Mike Jordan, Mike Jackson, Mike Tyson, and Mike Douglas. Hey, yo. Is Michael Douglas in the same cultural wheelhouse as those four guys? I mean, I'm not necessarily the one to sit here and debate it. But I think maybe some of those Michael Douglas movies, are beloved by everybody. That's for sure. So obviously, we throw the Michael Mount Rushmore out there as a name Mount Rushmore, but you think about the impact that, again, like Michael Jordan, I guess maybe Michael Jordan, his impact, but I guess Michael Jackson, hey yo, I guess just as maybe as career icons is maybe what I'm saying. Again, Jordan politically, I don't know if. Again, I'm maybe bring the where's the underqualified degree? Underqualified to talk about it. Oh, chat. Speaking of Eddie Murphy, okay, we finally made it to the Remember the Time music video. Let's go, chat. Okay, we might have to log off now and just watch this music video. Hey, yo, because is this the best one? But it's just we've been jamming to this song this year, and it's a lot of fun as well too. And this is this the most expensive music video that he did? I guess we can look that up quickly as well, but that list is out there. But this is definitely up there. Again, you also have Magic Johnson in this one as well, too. So in terms of casting, I guess, budget-wise, what was the last one? Carl Weathers and Whoopi Goldberg. I think, respectfully, Magic Johnson and Eddie Murphy are bigger stars than Carl Weathers and Whoopi Goldberg. So wait, let's see here. Michael Jackson, music, video, budget, if we can search that and see what we've got real quick, because it is when we get Scream, the video Scream, 7 million. I guess maybe Remember the Time is not up there at all. I don't know. 15 million Ghosts in 1996. 15 million Offset is the most expensive. Thriller, 500K, chat. Hey yo, Bad, directed by Scorsese as well too. Used 11 different sets over 11 days of filming. Most expensive music videos in general. I think this is the page that I was looking at. Michael and Janet both, obviously, taking on this one. Madonna has 2, 3, and 4 though. So I guess shout out Black and White, You Rock My World, as well. Is it adjusted? What was I looking at here? Hey yo, let's see what we got. Michael. I guess is it on this list at all? Maybe it just was like up. Maybe it was the views on his YouTube channel. Is it like the 3rd most viewed? I don't know. Something. We got to make the case for this in some way. I don't know. But wait, where did it go here? Singleton directing as well too. That's right. You get Singleton, Eddie Murphy, a Singleton and Eddie Murphy joint. Is this the only time that Singleton and Eddie Murphy work together? Hey yo, the Remember the Time music video. But either way, what do we got? 2 mil on the budget. Normally 2 mil, adjusted, I guess, for the 5 mil. I guess 4.5 mil these days. Hey yo. But I guess what were we saying for something about the Michael Douglas biopic. Hey yo. I guess the point was, shout out the Michael icons are obviously cultural icons. Michael Douglas, a great Michael. I don't know if he fits the list in the exact way that those 3 guys do, but yeah, either way, I guess that's another version of the extended Michael universe. So I guess I don't know. It was a fun theater going experience for us. Again, you get to see the songs. Like we said, the cinematic theater experience was definitely very fun. Okay, chat. Hey, yo, we do have to stay on for NBA journalism purposes, because the Lakers are trying to close out the Rockets here real quick. So it is 85-88 with 2.5 minutes left. Oh, is that Reed Shepherd with a big bucket? 2.5 minutes. So again, Lakers up 3-1 in the series. Hey, yo, chat, just a quick pivot into the NBA here to wrap up the night. It is what it is. 2.5 minutes left. Oh, Reed Shepherd's going to close him out. Hey, yo. Okay, JJ Redick timeout. It is what it is. We actually might take one quick break here and then follow along to the end of the game. So there we go. I guess, let us know what you guys think about the Michael Jackson movie as well, too, of course. At the end of the day, I mean, we've seen the community opinions as well on some of these review sites, but, obviously, we want to be a place where if you guys want to voice yours here, obviously talk about it. Hey, yo, we want to hear what you guys saying about the Michael Jackson movie for sure. And again, played well in our theater. The music video experience was a good time. So we'll be right back to try to follow along to the end of this game real quick. Hey, yo, Rem and Sim After Dark Midnight Edition. Hey, yo, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, yo, chat, speaking of greatness, we have to keep bringing it back to LeBron. Hey, yo, I don't know if that's a pause, but less than 2 minutes left. LeBron just had a little bank shot layup. The Lakers trying to cut back into this, down by 5. Oh, is that an offensive foul on Eason? It's got to be. There's no way they're calling a block unless he was in the restricted area. That is the only way. It's Austin Reeves, and the Lakers are down 5. So I feel like that's an automatic. It has to be going the other way. Oh, chat, they got their. I mean, I think Austin Reeves was definitely moving. It is what it is. There is that. That's pretty good, actually. I don't know. He got 1 foot to the space. I don't know. He got 1 foot in kind of most of his body. I guess. Oh, we forgot about the challenge. Udoka can definitely play that card. Okay. I guess we'll have to see how the refs are going to view this one. What is the league going to tell them to do? They're like, okay, I guess if we review this, do we have to overturn this? Is this one of those reviews that people are going to be upset? If we see it enough times, they're going to know what we're up to, is essentially the question. Because he does, I think, do a pretty good job of getting to the space. Again, is he fully in position pause when he's there? That is, I guess, what they're going to have to find out in the review here. But I think he is at least 1 foot down and in the space. And I guess you're going to have the, of course, potential, default of the original call on the court. So that is always going to be something, you can't just say, well, I guess we didn't quite have enough to overturn it. But, again, is he kind of sliding into the the spot there, I guess, would be the question. But, you know, again, if it was, I guess, the other way, I feel like the call just has to benefit the Lakers, though, at this point. You know, not to be too conspiratorial about it, not to be too tinfoil hat about the league here. But I just, you know, hey, yo, it is what it is. They're sending them to the next round. I guess the question is, does the league need the Lakers to play another first-round game? You know, them being up 3-2 does give them a good chance that they are going to be advancing. So do you play the odds, Chet Durant in a hoodie or in a beanie? Hey, yo. Again, we've been rambling about this Michael Jackson movie, so I guess I haven't been as locked into this Lakers-Rockets game as we should be. You know, the fact that we just now noticed Durant's in a hoodie with a minute 42 left. And I guess we haven't checked the box score, really, at all tonight. But either way, in chat, hey, yo, just, you know, I hate to be just a gross guy in hour 3. Hey, yo. But, you know, some of the ladies in the Michael Jackson music video, I mean, you know, again, that's a whole part of the movie. You could have a whole Michael Jackson's gonna steal your girl type of movie that just didn't even, you know, they don't even really portray him in that light. As we tell, again, there's just so many different ways that you can bring out different highlights of his character as well that are, you know, again, maybe even different opportunities as time goes to be able to, you know, tell it in a little, you know, tell it different versions, tell it in different ways. As we and again, I'd say like, hey, let's tell the Michael Jackson now version up to bat in this way. And now it's, you know, take 2 on what happens. But, you know, obviously I'm saying, you know, I guess we're pro franchise in this case. More franchise, more Michael Jackson movies. But I guess they did overturn the call, chat. AO. So the call does not have to benefit the Lakers. Again, 3-2, I guess they can. If the Lakers were up, if it was 3-3, if it was game 7, if it was game 6 even, what would the call be? I guess game 6 in Houston, though. Do they get the home call crowd? Or home crowd call, I guess is the actual way to say it. Okay, here we go. LeBron to Reeves. The 3, top of the key. Oh, chat. That might have been it. That might have been it. And did they just foul as well, too? Oh, Hachimura. Oh, chat. I don't want to give up on the Lakers, but I feel like, the mental, what do you say, the mental factor of being up in the series, it is what it is. I think it is going to play into how this game closes out. And this is going to make it 9 points here on the free throws. Okay, we'll give it one more possession. If they go down and hit a 3, you know, that makes it 6 points. Immediately is back to like okay, you know, we need to get a stop here. We need to stop. I guess we're assuming Sengun makes both of these as well too. He hits the first one easy enough, so I imagine, you know, his clutchness, he'll be there. 13, 9, and 9 for Sengun. So can he get a triple-double here? Does he have enough time for 2 assists? I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, he's going to be a little bit short. Maybe overtime for Sengun's stat line is what he is hoping for now. So DeAndre Ayton sprinting up the court to set a screen. You love to see it. Okay, Austin Reeves gets right to the basket, and he does get a layup. So the quick bucket is a good strategy for sure. Cuts this to 7, makes it manageable. You know, again, the 2 versus the 3 shots is definitely something. I don't know if I would have tried to have swung that at least one time out for 3. And then, you know, you go for that one swing around and then you have to re-drive. Now the defense is set in the half court a little bit more. And, you know, you're just running more clock. So it's, you know, you got to make a quick call there for sure. Tari Eason 3 misses. Offensive rebound. Calling the foul on the Rockets. Hey, yo, who's on the baseline here? They're trying to call fouls against the Rockets. It is what it is. The Rockets have already used their challenge up. Timeout. Well, I guess no, because yeah, they got their timeout back for winning the challenge. So are they going to use another challenge? Does he get the second one? I guess did he use one earlier in the game? Is it 1 per half or is it the NFL? Is it 2 per game? How does that rule work? We need to double check that there. They're going to the sideline though. So is this an automatic review? Hey, yo, the Rockets are calling another timeout. Chat, can Udoka go 2 for 2 in the last minute? Pause. Hey, yo, I guess, I don't know if we should be, you know, bringing up Udoka's name, given some of the performance, given, you know, the people we're trying to celebrate here tonight in this Michael Jackson movie. Hey, yo. But I guess, you know, he is coaching the team. So, go Lakers, chat. Hey, yo, the one time we have to root for the Lakers. It is what it is. You know, Udoka, unfortunately, he's on the list, chat. Hey, yo. You out here letting down Neil Long, chat? Hey, yo. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know, we gotta hold our NBA brethren accountable, chat. Hey, yo. I guess, you know, we're not gonna, you know, do we tread lightly and say that we're the pod that's not gonna, you know, try to, you know, again, we'll hold people accountable. We'll hold people accountable. We're not gonna maybe unprompted always, you know, unnecessarily judge somebody or comment on people. We're not going to comment on people's personal lives. What have we been doing, chat? What have we been doing? Hey, yo, I guess we're changing the conversation. That's what we're doing. Hey, yo, back to Udoka. Back to Udoka. I guess that doesn't really get us off the personal issues that we were talking about, but it does get us to the coach in the game tonight. So, you know, again, we're getting closer, chat. We're getting closer to wandering back on the court over here. Austin Reeves at the free throw line, so good. Some points with the clock stopped here. A minute left. They can cut it to 4. Okay, 4 with a minute is good. That is a stop in a bucket. And now you can at least play the free throw game if you have to. They did, you know, let Houston get a pretty good job of dribbling the clock out the last time around. But, you know, Houston as well, too, hasn't necessarily gotten a good first look in a second. You know, Reed Shepherd hit a good jumper there, but Amen Thompson, you say he got Jabari Smith kind of on the baseline, but he's going more for dribbling out the clock at this point than he is for attacking the basket. But then you kind of put yourself in a spot where now you're attacking high dribble. Oh, chat, Amen Thompson, he got a little jumper that he should have gotten, and another offensive rebound that they couldn't put back in. That's the same formula as last time. Marcus Smart to LeBron. Oh, Chet back to Reeves. Oh, Chet. Ayton with the follow dunk. So what's the score now? Okay, it's a 3-point game. It's a 3-point game. I was going to say, LeBron missed a 3. They got an offensive rebound. Reeves missed a 3. We can't even keep up. Okay, Chet, we got to settle down here for a second. I mean, you know, the problem with kind of passing around in the perimeter at the top like that is, you know, now you're trying to drive from half court and get a good look with like 7 seconds left on the shot clock. You haven't been, the point of the possession hasn't been to generate a good look. You know, of course, the point of the possession has been to kill the time. So, you know, success done there. And he missed the free throw. Amen Thompson misses the free throw. Oh, Chad, he only needs 1 to make it a 2-score game. Hey, yo. Is this going to be, I guess they're down 3-1. So, again, do you call it Nick Anderson 2.0? But it is still, you know, series on the line. So, a little something there. I'm sure Rockets fans are not going to be wowed. Okay, he got the second one, 97-93. But then Marcus Smart, after Amen missed that little mid-range jumper there, because he did get a little bit of an open look after us criticizing the possession. Marcus Smart trying to run down the lane. Another LeBron. Is that 3 he's missed here in the fourth quarter? Hey, yeah, and that one was short as well, too. So, I don't know, a little tired on that one, maybe. 40, I don't know if LeBron's ever missed a 3 for being tired like that. He's holding on to his elbow. Okay, so is he blaming the legs? There is a smirk on his face that's like, kind of break that one. It is what it is. But, what are we saying? Yeah, Smart was running, and at the three-point line just jumped. He just jumped at the top of the three-point line for no reason. Luckily, LeBron was back there. Then, you know, he missed the open 3. Reeves missed the 3 off the offensive rebound attempt. And then Ayton with the putback dunk. I guess, you know, probably the best play he's made all year. But LeBron on the next 3 missed there is kind of tough as well, too. And speaking of Michael Jackson, now Michael Jordan's in a music video. Michael Jackson just hit a shot through a window into another basketball court. I mean, you know, again, like this is... You know, speaking of the Michael Jackson music video cinematic experience part 2, if they do the movie again, is just about Jafar. Like, how many different celebrities can we cast in this movie? Like, we could cameo the people as themselves. But just think, I mean, you know, do you want to just recast somebody for the Michael Jordan biopic? Hey, yo. You know, I guess, but you could, though. I mean, you could cast Michael Jordan in this movie, and then obviously you don't have, not everything in cinema ever has to be connected. So if you want to do the Michael Jordan biopic later, then, you know, you can recast him then. But, you know, I guess that'll be another one as well. I was making a list of potential biopics that could be next, but there's so many that I was like, that is, such a different type of exercise. I feel like the connection to Prince, it's like, okay, a Prince biopic would be fun. And then for us personally as well too, I'm gonna be front row whenever they like, do the next version of the Whitney biopic movie, whatever. There's like Tubi, fortunately, I guess our love of Whitney Houston, Tubi's got us recommended on some of these Whitney Houston projects, but or not like, The Bodyguard. I mean, like, there is like a TV movie biopic that I'm thinking of, and I should look up who plays her in that movie. But, for them to do like an actual full theatrical, and there is another like soundtrack situation that I'm thinking of. I don't know. That might be more of a documentary, or is it just a movie that she's a part of just later on, more so than, a biographical, autobiographical piece. But can we look up the TV left 99 to 93? So shout out. But I guess her own filmography. Sparkle, I think, is what I'm thinking of. I think I'm thinking of the Sparkle soundtrack. Hey, yo. Documentaries and other. Is Whitney the 2018 2018 documentary? Shout out. Okay, yeah, those are, as you would expect, documentaries. References, see also. List of. Let's see. I guess if I look it up, it'll probably just. Hey, yo, chat, the computer's gonna die before the live stream ends. Hey, yeah. What it is. Are we still going? I just got some messages that said we are spazzing out. Hey, yo, should I check and make sure that we're still good? It is what it is. I guess we're almost done. Shout out. Subscribe to the live stream if you haven't. Okay, yeah, I think we're still chilling. So I guess we did make it to the end of this time. Pause. But what are we saying? We got to look up this. We got to end the Michael Jackson biopic discussion with looking up the Whitney Houston TV movie, just to say, what could be next. What could be next for sure? Whitney Houston TV movie. Let's see what we've got here. 2015 Lifetime movie Whitney, directed by Angela Bassett. Hey, yo. I guess is that how I found it? Looking at Angela Bassett directed movies, or was I just looking for Whitney Houston movies? I don't remember. But you've got Yaya DaCosta as Whitney Houston in this movie. So, hey, let her play it on, a bigger screen situation would be fun. Honestly, run it back. Angela Bassett directing? Why not? Lifetime 2.0. But, again, either way, there's so many music, non-music biopic characters that, could be done up until this point. It is, I'm sure not the last biopic that we are going to be getting, but I'm sure the next biopic's going to be poorly reviewed as well, too. It is what it is. Because, again, I feel like that's we need to do a better job of branding. Their music video cinematic experience. And for Michael as well, too, he's so good with the musical videos that you can kind of, in the performances. I mean, we can talk about this all day. Part 2, tune in next time when Van Lathan calls in, right? Wink, wink. Hey, yo, I guess we'll just have to see. It'll be Friday. We'll be here. We'll be back. The typical schedule, I guess, what night is it right now? It's Wednesday. Is Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. So, if you're joining us for the live streams, you can join us then. Going forward, that'll be the schedule for the most part. Unless it changes, stay tuned. Shout out. Sometimes we pop up on different days. Sometimes we, I guess, move the schedule around to go see certain movies. It is what it is. But I guess shout out to the people involved in creating that movie. Again, the acting is just insane. It's just insane. So shout out to that cast there, the casting director, the people that were involved in making that happen. That was awesome. We will see you guys in a couple of days. More NBA playoffs, more movies, more stuff later on. That's the live stream. That's what we like doing here. So we hope you will join us in the future as we hang out and, try to work through talking about some of this stuff. So we will, I guess, see y'all later, chat. Hopefully we'll see y'all later, hey, yo. But, hey, we had a good time. We had a good time at the Michael movie. What do you... That's how we'll leave it. Hey, yo, we'll cut the mic right on that. I guess so. But, shout again. Do we say one last time, as well, that, you know, again, obviously, the full scope of the story does involve so much that we don't want to be insensitive to, you know, the way that the story can impact certain people and certain legacies and certain, you know, just, you know, people with other certain similar stories as well too. You know, again, obviously we hope that everybody's able to, you know, get help and seek the proper, you know, just the proper accommodations for whatever. That's not even the right word, but just that, you know, if anybody in a similar situation, you know, obviously, hey, yo, that would be just, you know, something that would absolutely have to get resolved right away. Again, I'm not even using the right words here to speak on what is going on, you know, stumbling on the outro, but just hopefully, you know, the expression of empathy is there, because I get it really, it's course, of course. I mean, you know that's gonna make us get the duct tape right there. That's a sick to the stomach move. Of course, we go 3 hours without plugging the mic, trying to have a serious moment, and the mic unplugs. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But you know, I guess that's how we'll have to stumble out. So join us